Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's Freaky Friday. But there's something happening with Skype, so you're going to have to give me one moment till I reset the Skype. I'll be back with you. And for everyone out there on YouTube right now, I hope we're coming through loud and clear. Give me 2 seconds. I will sort everything at this end here. TFR, there we go. Bada bing, bada boom. We'll get there, folks. We'll get there. There we go. We're live. Welcome, everyone, to this week's Freaky Friday right here on TFRlive.com. Apologies for that little hiccup in the start there. Seems to be something with Skype, and I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't like Scottish people. Who knows? But I am not alone today. No, no, no. Let me bring in the first member of our Woo crew. There he is. I think he's about to join us right now. He is Mr. Lopez. How are you doing, my good friend?
I am doing absolutely fantastic, Kev.
Awesome
and,
stuff.
Another Friday has dawned upon us.
And no woo flu? You okay? You've avoided the sniffles?
No, yeah, I've avoided the sniffles. So far so good. But looks like we've got a bunch of cruise ships now that are not doing so well. We got one docked in New Jersey now. I was telling you before the show, I was like, yeah, it kind of gave me a little chuckle because of Joe saying it was the cruise ship cough, and now we have all these cruise ships that are under quarantine. So
is he like a jinx? Did he jinx the poor people on the cruise ship? Is he like an albatross on a cruise ship?
Well, hey, Joe isn't here today. Is he on a cruise ship?
Well, I heard a little rumor that Joe's got the sniffles.
Oh, see.
I'm just saying, you know, who knows? Maybe it's just a coinky dinky, right?
Hey, it is pretty close to his area. The cruise ship is docked in New Jersey. He's in Massachusetts, the Northeast area.
Well, you know, talking to seafarers, we may be graced by the presence of the most famous canoe owner in the world. Yeah, the captain of the SS douche canoe might well be here throughout the show.
Ooh.
Popeye is going to parachute in and grace us with his presence. He's probably sitting there playing with his beard right now. The ego will be pumping. The dopamine will be going. He'll be getting a squirt here, a squirt there, squirt everywhere. You know, so he's probably going to message me in a minute. Yeah, Kev, I'll be there in 5. You know what he's like, dude. It's diva time.
Yes, well, you know, Popeye does like his squirts, so but yes, I'm sure he's stroking the beard. He's drawing it out, waiting for his fans to they're just clawing for him. They're just clawing for Popeye.
You know, I miss him. That's why I do like extra streams, just to give him some airtime. I had him on YouTube. 2 hours I spent with him earlier on, and it just bang gone. Heartbeat, dude. It was like here today, gone 1 minute, or here 1 minute, gone the next minute. It was outrageous. So by the end of it, he said to me, you know, how about I just drop into Freaky Friday and come and hang out? So I think, you know, he can handle his woo, can Popeye. And the last time when I was on with him, I think you were away watching maybe the playoffs or something, Scott. Something was happening anyway, and I ended up with Popeye. We're talking about Baalbek and pyramids and dude, we went here, there, and everywhere.
Popeye can get into the woo. You know, he's known for being a more logical breakdown kind of guy, but he's also into the woo as well, and
likes the logical fallacy as well.
Yes, the logical. Ka-ching. but yes, Popeye is a fellow traveler of the woo like us, and he can get into it with the best of them. So
Is this
it'll
like
be
this?
good.
We're like a small fellowship of the woo, aren't we? Fellowship of,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
I
but
like that.
you
Brotherhood
know,
of
it's
Woo.
Brotherhood of the Woo.
That'd be a good
It
name for a
almost sounds
band,
like
man. The Brotherhood of Woo. That would be a cool
mm,
name. Probably not violent enough, Scott, not offensive enough. To have to throw in some swear word to make that probably a better kind of metal band.
look, it all depends on the metal genre, Kev. It depends on the metal genre. There's certain genres of metal where the names are not they're pretty nice. They're not that bad. But then there are certain genres of metal where hey, you've got to up your game on the offensiveness. So
I've missed you this week, dude. We've not had a chance to hang out all week, man. You know, so what's been happening with you?
Mr. Lopez has actually been getting sleep lately.
Nice,
So
Scotty boy. I like to hear that.
who would have thought that copious amounts of gaming on Call of Duty would actually help insomnia? Very strange, but
It's a bit weird.
yeah, couple hours of gaming, and then like I get done and I actually feel tired. Like maybe it's has something to do with keeping myself occupied and thinking. Like people don't realize that when it comes to games like that, there's a lot of thinking and strategy involved. So you're focused and you're like, you know,
Escape from Tarkov, dude. You need to get that game. Oh my, oh my.
Yeah. Look,
It's...
Kev, I'm trying to help my insomnia here, not exacerbate it. Now, if you give me another game to crack out on, then
you could lose 12 hours on this quite easy and do nothing.
Yeah.
Do nothing. And we've been here nearly 8 minutes, and many people would say we've said absolutely nothing so far. So what we'll do, Scott?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, 8 minutes past midnight. Oh.
Can you share your screen, Kev?
Oh, I can.
Please?
I can, Scott. Of course I can. I would have forgotten all about that there. Thank you very much for reminding me. And now you can see what I can see, I think.
There we go. Yes.
No, wrong one.
Mr. Baker's glorious desktop.
Yeah. There we go. So then, what we do on Freaky Friday, as if you didn't know, we head on over to the chat room, or as we call it on a Friday, the Wookiee Cave. You can get there at tfrlive.com/chat. Yes, Truth Frequency Radio has its own chat room, and it is somewhat unique. It kind of is a throwback, if you can remember the old early chat room days. You know, when people used to hang out on Yahoo, AOL chat, that type thing. I don't know.
I miss those kind of chat rooms. You don't see that often anymore. Anymore it's like the closest thing you can get are like image boards, but even then image boards aren't instantaneous. Everything has gone to like instant messaging and social media, like, posting statuses and stuff. And I just miss the old school real-time chat. I guess the only thing that you could say comes close to that would be like YouTube chat, in a live stream or something like that. But as far as just a chat room that's always open for people to just come in and actively chat, TFR still got that old school vibe to it, and I like that. That's one of the things I miss from the earlier days of the internet.
Yes, before it became the thing it is today, the creature that it's developed or evolved into. But into the chat room we go. I hang out in there. We've got my girlfriend, Sophia the robot. It's not really my girlfriend. She does have a thing for me, but she says it's just the accent, so I don't know. But then we have got one of our very own hosts on the network. Lucky is kicking back in the TFR chat room, along with Let's Go Down Under first, and Ken is in the chat room from Australia. And we've got the Wookiee, Silimo, Cold Brews, Paradoxical Anomaly, YG Slayer, And we've got the Polynation is in there. Bam. All one. Tony Phillips, 33. 33. Did you know, Scott? Did you know? The Super Bowl was played on the 33rd day of the year. And not only that, but it was also a very special date as well. 02/02/2020. There you go.
Yes, was it the palindrome? Where it's the
Palindrome,
same
yes. Very,
board,
very significant.
palindrome.
Yeah, it's very significant in magic, I'm led to believe.
Yes, that's what I heard. And since we haven't, well, I'll let you finish the chat, and then we'll kind of get into that.
No
just
problems. We've
bit.
got Bill 13 in there. Hilarious Nacy, aka Kev from Minnesota. Big shout out to you. Oh, hang on though. We've got the Brotherhood of Woo in the chat room.
What?
Whoa!
Whoa! Hold
Listen,
on, that's
if somebody even went out there and changed their name really quickly, kudos. That was cool. That was quick.
Yeah.
I like that. In fact, you may well be the actual leader of the Brotherhood of Woo. Will we give them that kind of job for the day, Scott? I think they deserve it.
Yeah. They deserved that bestowed upon them.
They went an extra couple of pixels. They went those extra pixels, dude.
They went those extra pixels.
Digital yards are pixels, right? We've got Bison in there. Big shout out to you, Andrew. And we also have the Eager Being, Polynation, and last but not least, Nice Soul. Now that's just the people in the chat room. We've got everyone on iHeartRadio, TalkStream Live, YouTube, wherever you are, whenever you are. This is Freaky Friday, and oh yes, you better be ready to get your freak on. And Scotty, last weekend, we missed you, but the Super Bowl was on. Myself and Joe, we went live to talk about it, have a laugh about the halftime show. I struggle really now when I watch them to see that it's not quite as in your face when it used to be the big pyramids or people going around covering eyes and things. And being a toxic male. Come on now. There'd be no point in me trying to hide the fact that I kind of get bamboozled when Shakira and J-Lo are doing their thing.
Yeah, I mean, the visuals, let's just say, were aesthetically pleasing.
There you go.
But I'm still one of these people who like to sit down and try to decode it.
Ryan Gable, he's coming on next week if you want to come and hang for that, dude. He's gonna come on.
Hey, yeah. And look, I'm sure there are others out there who have done a much better job than me. Like who can really understand the symbolism, like people like Ryan and others out there.
And
who
I think,
really
quite subjective anyway, Scott, because like you say, how can you truly know what the meaning of it was? And one person will see one thing and somebody else will see another, right?
But I think if multiple people start pointing out the same sort of things, then there's probably something to it. You know what I mean? But like a few of the things that initially caught my eye with the halftime show was when Shakira came out and they were wearing all red. It was the whole red sort. Yeah, the lady in red situation, and I know Ryan talks about that a lot, and I was like, okay, so we've got that going on. I noticed that the thing that they were kind of standing in was round, yep. And they sometimes when they would do their little dance formations or whatever, I was like, I know this probably is not tied to anything or whatever, but because it's been in the news,
it's Freaky Friday.
It's Freaky Friday. The way that they sort of arrange themselves in that sort of round, performance area, when it would do the overhead shot of it, I'm like, wow, that thing looks like the coronavirus. And yeah, it just sort of the way the coronavirus looked and the way that round sort of performance dance thing that they were doing, I was like, when J-Lo came out, some of the I noticed that there was a segment in there where they were wearing black and white.
Yeah. I laughed at that. So when we were doing the stream, I turned around and I said, they're wearing black and white now. Where's Lothar? And then it got creepy for us, Scott, because then our stream exploded. It was weird. The chat started going like metakers. Yeah, and on the back end we had like 12,000
Oh,
views.
I went back and I watched that. I don't think those were bots. I think we're hitting a threshold, man. I think we're hitting a threshold, and there are new people that are actually coming in and viewing the stream, you know. And
I don't think they knew what to make
you know,
of me and Joe sitting there talking about like not
you're
really much to do with the Super Bowl.
you're so humble, Kev. You know, like you're so humble that when something like that happens, you immediately go to, well, this can't be real. This has got to be bots or something like that. But no, I think those were actually, look, you were covering an event that was, you know, trending.
Yeah.
It was obviously, and then, you know, Super Bowl is a big deal. And I think that there were just people coming into the stream, seeing what was up, you know, and
maybe it's more comfortable to think it's bots, dude. That way you don't get nervous. You know what I'm saying? I'll give away my magic, man. But were you happy with the result and everything?
Kansas City winning?
Yeah.
You know, hats off to them. You know, I might not be a Kansas City fan, but it does kind of feel good to have the local team, I guess you could say, pull it off. And 50 years in the making, you know, they haven't been to the Super Bowl since the very first Super Bowl, which they lost.
That's
you know,
pretty
to
good
Green
going,
Bay.
man. That's pretty good going.
Yeah, and so they deserve it. And that's why I decided to root for them. They were the underdogs. You know, San Francisco had won multiple Super Bowls before. It's like, okay, you know, so come on, let's give them a shot. And boy, it was like World War III around here when they won. Oh my God.
I can imagine, dude.
It's kind of disturbing realizing how much fireworks are stockpiled in garages around the Topeka area. I was like, wow, you know, but yeah, you know, hats off to them. Good job.
So back to the halftime show, right? I know I kind of took you to the game there, but I can tell you obviously spent time taking an extra good look at this halftime show. Shakira and the rope. I've seen pictures of that afterwards. What's that all about, dude?
Yeah, that was kind of strange when she did that little weird belly dancing thing and was wrapping the rope around herself. And yeah, I don't know what to make of that. The kids in the weird little pod cage things, that was pretty weird too. I don't know what was up with all of that. I'm not sure if that was more of a political kind of statement, you know, with the kids in the cages, because I was sitting here thinking, okay, we're gonna have J-Lo and Shakira, obviously these Latin artists.
I think that's what it might be. Eh?
I was like, are they gonna try and work something in about like immigration, the kids in cages at the border, and it was that what that represented? You know, like you said, Kev, it's been a lot more difficult lately to break these down, because I think they're doing these more low key, like they're not doing it as blatant in your face, but they're still slipping stuff in there.
Feels like the next part of the ritual, or another phase that they've moved to. I talked about this with Bill Bean last night as well. And he's like us. He feels there's been some kind of change, some shift. You look at like the London Olympics with the eyes everywhere and the big pyramids, and dang, dude. Even somebody that's never looked at anything to do with the Illuminati were going, now this is little bit weird. What is this all about? But now, you know,
exactly.
You can look at that performance, you know, and I get it. I listened to Ryan with Clyde Lewis. I was quite embarrassed. I was, because when I honestly had looked round and taken a little look at what was going on with the halftime show, I was saying to Joyce, it's just nothing now. It's waste of time, you know what I mean? And then they done a full show on this, and I'm thinking, wow. You know, if you've got the eyes to see with what's going on and you know what to look for and things, so multi-layered, dude. And I'm thinking that's the general public. That's where I was, you know, that level of just watching it. not realizing what's really going on.
Yeah. There definitely were things in there that were like, okay, that was, they're representing something, and a lot of similarities between what they were doing, and then like a lot of the stuff we break down with like Billie Eilish and Poppy and stuff like that. Like especially the black and white stuff and the Lady in Red stuff. I mean, that was very prominent, I think, and I think that was probably the main takeaway I that I noticed with
She'll
that
be
was,
one of the next ones to do the Super Bowl. Mark my words.
yeah. I was actually wondering. I'm like, man, I wonder if next year they're going to have like Billie Eilish do it or something like that, because she's way too huge of a star now for them not to have her do something like that. And then I think that will be very, very interesting to break down that.
She'll probably come
That
into
one,
the stadium with black wings on or something. She'll go full black-eyed child, you know what I mean? Maybe she'll just openly shapeshift into the reptilian that me and you and everyone knows that she wants to be.
mm,
Yep.
that'd be-
Bit of a
it'll be-
halftime show, that one, eh? Well, wonder what that was all about. Oh, just Billie Eilish going full gecko, and then coming back.
yeah, like possessing the entire audience, and they start like coughing up black goo or something. Oh my god.
Oh, dude, we should we could really put on a production for the halftime show. We would get the internet, we'd break the internet with the symbology we'd have in there, Scott, I'm telling you.
Oh, no doubt, dude. No doubt. I mean, if you wanted us to put together a halftime show, that would raise a few eyebrows.
Yeah, I would need to get, we could have Joe sitting in the corner just telling people it's the sniffles. That's for sure. We could have him up on the big screen. Nothing to fear, folks. Keep calm and sniffle on.
We need to have a Ryan plan it. Ryan could probably put together a stellar.
Dude, imagine it, man. They would probably say, you're hired, Ryan. You're in big time. But yeah, I'll be speaking to Ryan next week on the Kev Baker show. He's going to come on and share with me what it is he's seen going on. And trust me, folks, like I say, it's so multi-layered. And Ryan, he's got the book Occult Arcana.
Yeah.
He is really, I mean, he knows his stuff when it comes to all that. It's amazing how he just keeps it. You can ask him anything and it's there.
Yeah, he reminds me of a young Everard. Like really.
Yeah.
When it comes to that kind of just off the cuff, just straight knowledge when it of the occult and the symbolism and all of that stuff. Ryan, man, when he gets older, like he's gonna be one of these dudes that he's gonna be like a household name.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
when it comes
to
stuff.
Oh, big time. Yeah. He'll definitely be filling auditoriums when he's, as opposed to when he's going to Contact in the desert and absolutely ousting the blue chicken mob. But that's for another show altogether. Hats off to Ryan for that one, and he'll be on next week. But yeah, we're coming up on the first break. When we come back after the break, we were talking about the games of these times, the bread and circus, if you will. And we're going to take a look back to ancient times. After the break, we're going to start getting into the woo. We're going to go ancient woo, because having Max on the show recently, he's really whetted my appetite to get back into all the ancient kind of woo. We're going to take a look at a game, Scott, from ancient Egypt. And not quite the same as the Super Bowl. Some say the Super Bowl, it's like life and death, right? But it's only like life and death, really. It's not literally life and death, but the game in ancient Egypt that we're going to be looking at, literally called the Game of Death. Yes.
Ooh.
Booga, booga, wooga. And then we're going to take a look at 10 of some of the ancient mysteries, some of the ancient sites around the world. We'll use that as a launch pad for some interesting discussion. And as well, don't forget, I'm looking at the Skype here, the bearded one. He will be dropping in and blessing us with the kind of wisdom that only the Popeye possesses. Yes, indeed.
He's gonna come flying in like Lady Gaga did at the halftime show.
You think so?
Except it'll be the beard. His beard is
Do you
so.
think Rad Chick's gonna rip half his t-shirt off and he's gonna expose his manly bit like Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake that year?
Oh, the wardrobe
Yeah, the
malfunction.
wardrobe malfunction. Yeah, we know, Popeye, what you're planning. Don't try it, punk. Don't try it. I was hoping for a wardrobe malfunction when Shakira was dancing, but no such luck there. We'll be back on the other side. Don't go anywhere, folks. Yes, indeed. We're still here, obviously, on YouTube right now. But what I'm going to do, Scott, is I need to go make a quick coffee. So I'm going to bang on some of our really brilliant tunes here. And we'll be back in 3 minutes, right? How's that sound? That gives you a chance to get sorted. And so, folks, thank you all for tuning in today. And yeah, myself and Scott, apologies. We were catching up in that first segment of the show. We've not spoken all week. But now, get ready to get your freak on, because we are going to get into the deep woo. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere. Yes, Mr. Lopez. Just watching the clock. Yep, we'll go back to the network in just a moment. But you're looking rather refreshed, I must admit, Scott. You can tell you've been getting a good sleep. I've been getting a crap sleep. Not good at all.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know what's up. Who would have thought that doing a couple hours of Call of Duty every night would
Here we go.
would drain the brain.
Ah, no Wookiee.
How dare you?
Ah, the Wookiee didn't come through, but we got somebody far
Oh, no.
scarier than the Wookiee. Greta bringing us back after the break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I can't think of anything quite as scary as maybe Greta bringing us back after the break. That'd be an entirely different podcast altogether, right? We certainly wouldn't be going down the rabbit holes we're about to go down, Scotty.
Hmm.
No.
Yes, I'll have to debug the Wookiee, kind of see what's going on with him. But
I think maybe the Wookiee is watching a rerun of the halftime show. I heard the
yeah, I
Wookiee
think
was most impressed, Scott. Most impressed.
I think he might be distracted right now. So
I heard he's a slightly toxic Wookiee. He'd have to be hanging about us, right? No use in being a woke Wookiee. Nothing worse than a
yeah,
woke Wookiee.
Living here with me, yeah, he's definitely a toxic Wookiee. There's no wokeness around. No wokeness around.
He's a woke-free
Casa
Wookiee.
Lopez.
A woke-free
Woke-free
Wookiee. Oh, dude, I don't know. It's one of these shows, but yes. Let us take you back in time, if I may. And again, like I said before the break, Max from Germany, if you haven't heard the shows with him, he really has been bringing the ancient woo to life. He truly has. And we were talking about the Hindu texts, the Tibetan kind of mythology, all that kind of stuff. High technology in ancient times, Scotty boy. Kind of stuff that we get into a lot. But, some of the things Max is interpreting from some of these texts, it's brand new stuff. We were talking about how, and must admit, I was one of these people that thought how in the Mahabharata and the Vedic texts it talked of nuclear war type stuff going on. But Max was sharing with me that when you actually get into the texts and how they truly, the interpretation of them, it's kind of cherry picked the bits that give us the idea that led to a nuclear war, and it was something that got put out early on. Somebody said they interpreted it that way, and then everyone that came afterwards, they kept on just accepting that's what the interpretation was when it was kind of transcribed. But in reality, no. And it didn't take any of the woo away, Scott, but it wasn't talking about like a nuclear war type stuff, but certainly high weaponry technology, that kind of thing. But it's the fact that, Max, after all this time, and that information's been there forever, right? And you can still get a new set of eyes looking at things today. And things that have existed for thousands of years, people can put them into a better frame of reference as our knowledge grows, as our technology grows as well. Really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and even if it wasn't a nuclear war, I mean, what it's describing is like energy weapons, battles in the sky,
man. Yeah.
These Vermanas flying around, and basically what it boils down to is whatever that is a record of, people witnessed something absolutely crazy going on at that time, something that were we looking at two alien races battling each other, over Earth?
Who's running Westworld this century? The battle for Westworld.
I mean, because you got to imagine, you got to figure, okay, like say let's before we go to this story here.
Freaky Friday, dude. We've got time to expand and explore the rabbit holes that spin off, man.
Yes. So like, we talk about the Anunnaki, right, and the Sumerian texts and stuff, and by all accounts, from what we have been able to sort of glean from it, interpret from it, we're talking about an alien race that came down to Earth and basically created a hybrid species to mine gold for them, right? I mean, that's essentially the core of what
they came here, and they made the best use out of all of the resources available to get their hands on that one true resource they wanted, the gold, right? So we're told. We're told.
So we're told. I mean that's just where we're at now. I mean, I think that's kind of the
You think about
consensus
it.
of.
You've got Enki and Enlil. That's the Anunnaki ones, right? And then you've got the Zulu nation with their Chitahuri and the two brothers. You know, I'll hang on a minute now. So we've got two reptilian mobs quite close to each other, brothers again. Do you think maybe we're telling the same story here and people have just given them different names, maybe? No,
Mm,
that's highly offensive to one belief system or another, but I'm just making an observation, right? It's all the same
exactly.
thing, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, we see a lot of these same stories retold throughout different cultures, just different names for the same entities, I guess you could say. But going back to that, who are the Anunnaki's enemies? You know what I mean? You got to think that they weren't the only ones probably looking for resources on planets, looking for gold. You also have to take into account internal politics. What was going on within their sort of, were there bad actors within the Anunnaki and good actors? Just look at politics today. The deep state, or whatever you want to call it.
The cabal.
The cabal. Yes, the cabal. But right, I mean, you have internal conflicts just within our own governments, right? So who's to say that kind of stuff doesn't exist within what would you consider exopolitics?
Yeah,
Something like that?
I suppose if anyone out there is kind of thinking, oh, come on, think of us on our planet and our oceans, right? And oceans cover most of the surface area of the planet. And cool, we're going to Europa, we're going to be going and living on Mars soon, but there's literally bits of like the Mariana Trench nobody's ever been to, nobody's ever seen. And that's just like oceans. So there's bits of our own ocean that we've never been to, nobody's interested in anything that's there. You wouldn't know if there's any fish there because no one's been. Now look at the size of the universe, Scott. Now it gets really easy to see how people could literally, like a planet like ours, could literally be, nobody even knows, but maybe just some planet, some race of beings that came and played about and put us here. But it is possible for, like what you're saying, some vast exopolitical system to exist. We would have no idea. And perhaps most of them have no idea about us.
Maybe at one point Earth was the battleground for one of these wars that they had, and then they've moved on, and we're no longer, you know what I mean. But it does beg the question, though. I mean, who was fighting? Who were these people flying, or who was battling in the sky using energy weapons and all of that stuff? That doesn't sound like you're dealing with just one specific group, right? It sounds like there was obviously there was a battle, there was fighting going on. So who are these entities, who are these beings that were battling over the earth?
And did they ever leave?
Yeah, did they ever leave? Yeah. And then if you want to look at it from like maybe a more supernatural, I guess, perspective, or religious perspective, or were we dealing with like angels and demons battling over the planet? Were we dealing with interdimensional beings of some sort? I don't know, man. But obviously there was some crazy stuff going down, and there was a huge battle.
It could still be going down right now interdimensionally, Scott. And we would have no comprehension. It could be going on above us in the sky right now. Just out,
what if they were battling in their dimension, right? Okay, what if they were like in this huge war
You're gonna
going
melt
on
my head now, aren't you? You're gonna melt my brain.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, what if they were just having this huge war, this huge battle in their dimension, and they were using like crazy, just insane technology, right? These energy weapons and stuff. And what if they detonated or utilized one of these weapons and it literally ripped a hole in space time and their battle phased into existence over the planet for a short time and then they phased back out?
Dang, dude. Listen, if we can't make a compelling case for it, we've got a good book, right? I tell you, dude. Why not? Anything's possible.
You know,
I don't know.
they
I have no idea.
decided maybe they decided to deploy some kind of super weapon, some just some
Scott,
super weapon.
To me, the moon is a super weapon. I think there's an artificial component that, and look how critical it is to life. You know, the tides. Without the moon, we'd be pretty stuck. I don't know. There's just something too perfect about it. And then you get the whole kind of eclipse. Oh, come on. So you're telling me that moon that just randomly came together out of whatever the hell it came together out of, and then when it finished making its moon-sized thing that it did, it just happened when it goes in front of the sun that it's exactly the right size to like fill the disk of the sun, and you get that lovely corona effect. That just happened randomly. Okay, no problem. I've got problems with that, Scott. I do. And if you were going to have an experiment, right? What would we do if we were running an experiment like this on a planet? We would want to observe it, wouldn't we? We would want somewhere to watch what was going on. I'm not saying they're still there now. You know, look at the place. It's knackered. It's a moon. I can see that. It's done, you know what I mean? But at some point, and then the Chattahoochee, they say that they dragged the moon here.
Yeah, and the moon is what keeps the Earth's rotation stable, right?
Just where we need it.
It keeps our rotation. Yeah, it keeps the rotational axis stable so the Earth doesn't begin to tumble. And that's an issue actually that Mars has. It doesn't have a moon big enough to stabilize its axis. So they say every I don't know how many million. I want to say something like around 7 million years. That's just off the top of my head. But it's probably a wrong number. But
he's probably right.
They say that. But they say that every, over this, certain million year time frame, Mars tumbles. Its rotation, it starts to drift, and then it starts like rotating sideways, or it does some kind of a weird flip. And I'm sure that probably wouldn't be good, right? If you're setting up some kind of a civilization or something on Mars, that probably would be an issue that would have to be resolved. And it's interesting because I've seen scientists and maybe even Musk. I'm not sure if Musk chimed in on this, but they said that if we were to colonize Mars, that eventually we would have to utilize an artificial moon to stabilize its axis. And I thought that was very interesting because, like you said, we talk about the Chattahoochee dragging a moon to our planet. Were they trying to stabilize the rotation of Earth? That way it could support life, because we're now exploring that possibility ourselves. Well, we're going to need to stabilize the axis, the rotational axis of Mars, so we might have to create an artificial moon. I mean, come on, is it history repeating itself again? Is it another one of these weird cycles,
Everything cycles, man. Everything. And talking with Max Egan the other night, this kind of recycled kind of thing that, like the virus right now. You go back every 100 years till about 1620, and you find that there was always some kind of pandemic or plague or flu in the 20s of each century. Come on, I mean, are we in some kind of flu cycle? Dude, there's so many things that we really just have no idea about. That's why I sometimes cringe. I don't laugh, but I cringe when people tell you that they know. I know what's happening. I know what it's all about. Really? I'm barely scratching the surface, any of us, honestly.
all we can do is pretty much speculate and theorize based off of kind of the data points that we have to work with, and it's also difficult because we talk about a lot of these ancient stories from different cultures, and they're trying to describe things based on their life experience at the time, right? How do you describe something that you've never seen before? Well, you try to find the closest thing that you can compare it to and describe it in that way, right? So, you talk about like chariots of fire flying across the sky. Well, what carried a person at the time? A chariot. That was the mode of transportation. A horse-drawn chariot. And so if there's a vehicle carrying a person and it's got fire flying out of the back of it, or it's being propelled by something, then the only way that they're going to be able to describe it is a chariot of fire. It's just like if we saw something today that we couldn't describe, like a flying object of some sort or something, the only thing we could really compare it to would be like an airplane or something like that, so I don't know, we would just describe it in what our current lexicon is.
Yes. No, you just... sorry, Scott. Sorry, I got rudely interrupted by our special guest. He's been in touch. Yes, he'll be joining us shortly, so he will. Mr. Popeye, the OG of many's a thing, probably.
Yes. Nice. Yeah, I think his beard is so big that if he did parachute in, his beard would actually create enough air resistance, and he could just use his beard to parachute in. He just grab it on both sides, and he just parachutes in with it.
I think it's like an antenna. That's where he's tuned into the Matrix, man.
It's multifaceted. It's one of these. It's got many different uses.
It's like a Leatherman of beards. It's like a Swiss Army knife of beards.
Yes,
multifunctional. Yeah, big time. Well, we were going to get into some ancient woo, and I think after talking about Mars, Scotty, what better place than Cairo, Egypt, right?
Yeah.
Literally, you go to the Arabic for Cairo, and it translates as Mars. Now, why they called it that, we've talked about that before. We have a idea, nothing more, an opinion that perhaps maybe, we came here from Mars. Maybe something happened that knocked it on that kind of unstable thing that Scott was talking about.
Yeah, I think that probably was the cataclysm that occurred on Mars. My personal view is that we originated from Mars, and we have a genetic memory knowing that we need to go back, that it's like home or something.
I think you've got the people that were native to this planet, and I know many people will tell you out of Africa. I think there's a very interesting case to be made out of Australia. After speaking to Dan and Jess on the show, we're going to be getting deeper into that rabbit hole sometime soon. Watch this space. But I don't know, this might sound a bit controversial, Scott. Oh, hang on.
Lopez Kev Bringer Wujo got sniffles Wookie too.
I like it. I like it. Yes, nice. I like it. Yeah, my controversial part to this, Scott, is, like I say, I think there was a human indigenous to this planet already. And I think we came here later. Be it from Mars, be it from a bit of genetic tinkering going on somewhere. But I mean, we're all human. Don't get me wrong. But I think our stock came from elsewhere originally.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on this. I think that there was an indigenous hominid species already lived here on Earth.
Happily, probably. Not warring.
Yeah.
Quite happy. in harmony with nature, Scott. You know?
And then another species came in, probably from Mars or whatever. You know, we talk about the look, going back to the Anunnaki stuff, and there was a cross splicing. There was a genetic mashup that occurred between the two species, and I think the end result is what you see now. Me and Kev sitting here doing a podcast.
And then there's that whole
on-
thing with the rhesus blood as well. You know, that I don't know enough about it to talk about it. I think it's Rh negative or something. When you don't have that rhesus, you don't have the monkey blood bit.
And you know, this doesn't poo-poo the religious aspect of it either, because now we're talking about fallen angels.
Yeah.
You know, mating with human. You know, this all is the same stuff. This is all everything tied in together, and I think there's a really good case to be made that there was some kind of a genetic splicing that occurred between something beyond our planet, something otherworldly, if you want to call it that, you know, and the indigenous population that was already here.
And Scott, I mean, our own scientists here on Earth. I mean, Craig Venter, the guy that cracked the human genome, the Genome Project. I mean, he's made a presentation to NASA. I get it, you know, he was trying to be a bit kind of geeky, a bit bombastic, showing off to the NASA guys, saying how, you know, maybe one day we'll have to splice humans with cockroaches, and we can do that, because that would make them more resistant to radiation. I know it's a bit of a kind of way out there example, but here we are talking about splicing things, Scott, you know, to make them more conducive for X, Y, or Z, be it space travel or, hey, maybe another planet, dragging a moon if they need it. So we're talking about that in our technology. Nothing to say. A far more advanced race of beings out there wouldn't be doing exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we look at how, I mean, if you just look at things in general on a universal scale, everything seems to follow a certain pattern of evolution, right? You know, the way planets form, you know, all of that stuff. So why wouldn't it be any stretch of the imagination to think that we're not following a very similar pattern of evolving as any other probably, you know, intelligent species that exists in the universe would probably follow as well. They probably would go through the same sort of patterns, I guess you could say, that we would go through. Probably, you know, going through a pattern of warring with each other over sand, right, on their planet until they've moved to the next level and go, okay, that's, you know, that's ridiculous. Let's move beyond that. You know, they would probably be going through gene splicing, scientific discoveries, you know, mathematic discoveries, everything that we're going through now. I'm sure any other species that exists out there would probably go through those same sort of steps, you know, and eventually reach some kind of a pinnacle of technological advancement.
And then eventually they would get woke, and that civilization goes broke.
Yeah, exactly. Do they crumble under their own
Intergalactic snowflakes? Can you imagine it?
intergalactic? Can you imagine? You know, the UFO finally lands. They step off the ship.
Point
you
of
know,
privilege.
and we're all
Point of
like,
privilege.
yeah, we're all like, yes. What are the aliens going to teach us? You know, whatever. And they start doing freaking jazz hands, and I'd be like, get on that UFO and get the hell out of here.
Exactly. Well, although if they did do that, at that point, I'm thinking to myself, right, now we're getting a bit of blue beam here. This is definitely like, this is AOC has gone and played the last card. She's played it, man. Woke aliens, can you believe it? They'll turn up with this great idea about, oh, you know, we heard there's like 11 years to save your planet, and we know exactly what you need to do, right? You need to get in the old guy, The old guy like Bernie, and you need to get in that amazing AOC, and they'll fix this place for you. We've given them a green new deal, Sky.
I'm just picturing AOC behind the laser projector trying to figure out how to work it. You know.
Dang, dude. She wouldn't know one end of an alien from another. As pretty as she is, I don't think she would. But we're almost on the break, ladies and gentlemen, and I promise, after the break, I'll get to the ancient Egyptian game of death. Don't go anywhere. Ah, yes, indeedy. 1 hour down. 2 more to go. And Popeye should be joining us in the next, 15 minutes or so. The Popeye should be here. So maybe about an hour then by the time he does what he has to do. And
he has to groom the beard. He has to make sure it's immaculate.
he's got a ritual,
right now,
and he's got a ritual he goes through. He goes to the mirror. The mirror tells him how cool he is, and you the man. No, you're the man. No, Popeye, you're the man.
He's got the lights set low in the bathroom. He's got a couple candles lit. He's looking in the mirror. He's gently stroking the beard. He's making sure everything is in order. I mean, it's a ritual.
Yeah,
it's a ritual.
He's got beard OCD, man. I think there must be something wrong with it because we've not seen it in a little while. He's not even gone on choppy webcam for us to see, so I think there's something wrong with it. I think Radchick burnt it. That's what I think happened.
Was there an accident?
I don't know.
Was there a quote-unquote accident?
Listen, where there's a void of information, i.e. visual evidence of Popeye's beard, we can say anything happened to it, Scott. We're just trying to fill in that blank, man. That's all it is.
John in chat said he's rubbing oils in it. Yeah, Popeye would be the one to probably rub some essential oils in his beard to make it.
He probably does, doesn't he?
Give it a little, give it that nice healthy sheen.
He probably gets the cat to sit and lick it for him and everything. Oh, he's terrible.
He's chiming in.
Look, there he is. Yes, we tempted him. We baited him. Look. Yep. He's sitting there now. Look at him. He's getting that dopamine squirt, and he's like, "Oh, that was a good one. Oh, the boys are talking about me."
Yes, the gland controlling the dopamine. It's just pulsing right now. It's just
throbbing.
Pulsing on against the.
Imagine getting your dopamine gland tickled like that, Popeye. It's terrible, man. Terrible. Yes, indeed. Oh, that chat room, you are absolutely crazy. You do know that, right? And remember, like I always tell you, crazy in Scotland, that's a compliment. If you're not crazy, you've got problems, you know.
As is, it's a compliment here. And
is it the same? No, what was I was hearing, Scott? The Kansas City Chiefs. They're not from Kansas. They're from Missouri. What?
Kansas City is split in half. Half of Kansas City is in Kansas, and the other half is in Missouri.
Oh, dang, dude!
They're based on the Missouri. They're based on the Missouri side, so technically, yeah, it's Missouri. But pretty much this whole region around here considers it Chiefs country, so whatever. But yeah,
I don't know what Logos Warriors laughing about. Probably us abusing Popeye. But I honestly think Logos is about to fall off the chair right now. Mammoth using cray-cray. That's absolutely totes amazeballs. Yay.
You so cray-cray. That's totes amazeballs.
It's been a while since we've had a totes amazeballs right here, only on the Kev Baker show. Yes, indeed. I remember I said that to somebody one time and they actually thought it was being like offensive. What is that supposed to mean? Like, whoa, I thought everyone knew about totes amazeballs. Went away all sheepishly. Dang. Yeah, always make myself look stupid, Scott. You know that. We're getting ready to go back to the network, folks. And remember, tell everyone about tfrlive.com. Get them over here to the YouTube channel or the chat room over on TFR Live. Here we go. Nah, still no Wookiee. Still no Wookiee. So we'll have,
Uh,
I don't know, will we have like second best to Wookiee?
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Yeah, there you go. Jonesy
Okay,
brings us
yeah.
back for our number 2. We'll need to get more people to bring us back for every segment. Yes, we'll introduce some surprise guests to bring us back from the break, right? Very surprise.
We'll have to put together a nice little
Yeah, but Popeye is
yeah,
warming
little
up.
compilation.
We found Popeye at the break. He was lurking in the chat room, trying to see how much we would talk about him. So I hope you enjoyed that dopamine, Popeye. But now you need to turn that into adrenaline and come on here and take us away with your ancient woo. And talking of ancient woo, we're going back to not Australia, ancient Egypt, first of all. Let me pull the story up here. There it is there. And it comes from, of course, on a Freaky Friday, Mysterious Universe. And it says the original board game of death discovered in Egypt. Yes,
Ooh.
indeed. I know, I don't think I've heard of this one, Scott, to be honest with you. So it says, would you like to play one of the oldest board games in the world? One played by Queen Nefertiti and King Tutankhamun, who was buried with 5 game boxes. Would you still be interested in playing if you knew it became known as the Game of Death? Because it was believed the souls of the dead had to win games against the living in order to pass on to the afterlife. So then head on over to San Jose, yes, the one in California, to the Rosicrucian Egyptian Museum, where an archaeologist discovered an uncatalogued wooden Senate board that may be one of the first examples of when the fun game of chance became the spooky game of death. Your move. Quote, by the New Kingdom and perhaps earlier, Senate gains religious importance as evidenced by its inclusion in chapter 17 of the Book of the Dead, where the deceased plays Senate against an invisible opponent. The game itself is a reflection of the Ba, passing through the Duat, and is described in such terms in the Great Games text, conjecting the spaces of the individual plane squares to different stages along the journey. Now, the word Senate in Egyptian means passing, and may refer either to the game's religious connotation of the Ba passing through the Duat, or the mechanics of the gameplay, where playing pieces passed each other on the board. You know, Scott, before we even go on with this, when it comes to that kind of the journey into the afterlife, the Egyptians, I mean, this was something that it goes beyond like religion. It's almost obsession. There's almost like there was something obsessive with them to do with death.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, you know, they were. It was a very death-based kind of religion that they had. I mean, they were very obsessed with the afterlife and all of that stuff, and so it's almost like everything they did was tied into it somehow. Even these board games, all of that stuff, it was all about preparing yourself in the afterlife, moving on to the, you know, and I mean, you just see how obsessive they were when it comes to burials and all of that stuff, you know, preparing the body, putting preserving the body, placing items, and all of that.
Scott, where does that all come from, right? I mean, where does that come from? A civilization, middle of the desert. You know, you come back, they tell us 4,500 years. We're probably talking closer to 11,000 years. But where does that? I mean, that's a whole rigmarole. You know, the whole kind of rituals and the ceremonies. That takes a long time to build up. I mean, that in itself, that didn't get born out of a couple of weeks of two of the pharaohs sitting together and going, right, we'll do this and we'll do that, and then you go under the underground and okay, you know.
What this goes back to what we're talking about, where I think they're trying to emulate what they stumbled across, or they witnessed these entities that they worshipped as gods, right? And they want to attain that level, like they want to achieve that level of, quote unquote godliness or high technology, or that level that these beings were displaying
To gain
And
access
so-
to the dimension they came from, perhaps,
Yeah, exactly. They want to. They see that these things had came from somewhere else, right? Not of this world, and they want to do everything they can to try and reach that plane of existence, And so they probably, in their minds, maybe if we do this, maybe if we do that, let's try everything we can to where in the afterlife, maybe we can join the gods, and I think that's why you see so much of an obsession with it in Egyptian cultures, because they're trying to emulate, I think those nomadic desert peoples were going across the desert. They saw that pyramid sitting out there and they were like, whoa. Because think about it. The pyramid was the tallest structure on Earth until when? I mean,
wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, I mean, think about that. Think about how long that thing had been sitting there, and and humans had never been able to create something taller than the pyramid. I mean, there's no way that
Chicken bones, Scott. Chicken bones.
Mm.
Yep.
Mm.
Chicken
Yeah.
bones and a ramp. Yeah. Okay. And where did that ramp go?
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. There's something
I
magical.
I think that's where their obsession came from. I think that's where the Egyptian civilization's obsession with the. But look, you see a very similar obsession with the afterlife and death as well in Aztec culture.
Yeah, big time. Yep.
Very
Yep.
similar. There's so many parallels between like Aztec culture
Well,
and
you
Egyptian
used to
culture.
get it was almost like a rite of passage kind of thing where the young warriors would have to go into the kind of the caves and literally go through the underworld, to come out the other end, and whether that made them accepted or higher up in the tribe, whatever it was, but that's what you had to go through, man.
And you had the whole, let's just go ahead and cut someone's heart out at the top of the pyramid and all of this.
You see, that happened after it all got woke. It got woke, and then all that stuff started. It always happens when the woke brigade turn up. But if we go back to the Game of the Dead, here we go. It says here, Walter Christ, an archaeologist at Maastricht University over in Holland, writes about the board in the Journal of Egyptian Archaeology. Now, the Ba he refers to is the soul, and the Duat is the realm of the dead. Now, the board and 9 plain pieces were acquired by the Rosicrucian Egyptian Museum in 1947 from Spink and Son in London, which obtained it from the collection of Lord William Tyson Amherst, 1st Baron of Hackney, and well part of the cabal of the day, I would imagine. A well-known collector of
definitely has that sound. That name is like
he was going to the Eyes Wide Shut party out the Rothschild mansion. You know it.
Lord William Tyson Amherst.
Yeah, born with a silver spoon in his mouth. I'm telling you, a well-known collector. Would it be collector or thief? since, you know, none of the Egyptian antiquities belonged to anyone that sold them, and cuneiform tablets, and the benefactor of of Howard Carter, who discovered the tomb of King Tut. That's an interesting character, Howard Carter. Some of the depictions I've seen of him and his life story. Says the Baron died in 1906, and the tomb wasn't discovered until 1922. So it's not one of Tut's. In fact, that's the extent of what's known about its history. It may be one of the first times that this aspect of the journey through the afterlife is visually rendered on the board. And Chris bases his assessment on the drawings etched into the game board. And it says, you can see pictures, but it says Senate was played by two people who placed their 5 game pieces on a 30 square 3x10 grid. Moves were determined by a throw-in of a precursor to dice, and pieces moved up and down the rows cribbage style. Now, while the game has been depicted in many tomb paintings, not much else was written down about the rules. What is known is that the decorations in the last 5 squares were hieroglyphics, animals or people, and were key to dating the boards. Also, the Rosicrucian game is designed like a small table, and only one of this design ever found, indicating it's older than later models like Tut's, which were boxes for holding the game pieces and dice. In addition, the markings in the final 5 spaces were simply during the Old and Middle Kingdoms, but beginning in the New Kingdom, the use of more elaborate drawings and hieroglyphic inscriptions appear in these squares. This elaboration coincides with the increased religious significance of the game during the New Kingdom. Now that's interesting, right? Because the New Kingdom, they were obviously trying their hardest to kind of replicate, reenact, you know, try and reproduce the things from that older, where the knowledge came from. Sounds like maybe even, Scott, at that point, that's when things got skewed. Somebody came in and skewed what the old knowledge was, you know, his story. Whoever comes in, and they change things, and who knows what kind of information we've lost because of the different pharaohs and dynasties that came and went.
Exactly. That's a good point, Kev. I mean, how much of the original knowledge was actually lost just because we see how many times Egyptian pharaohs have tried to wipe the history of the pharaohs before them.
The Sphinx, right? You see this. I think the Sphinx. Anyway, it's quite obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because now we're talking about people who just want power, right? And they want to overthrow the old dynasties, and they want to erase all history and knowledge of those who came before. So that's why you see like the defacing of statues where they just like, you know, break off the nose and try to deface them as much as possible so nobody can see what was once before.
You mean like the woke brigade getting rid of like historic American statues? My word, my little throwaway joke is actually having real world parallels here. The wokeness might be one of the last stages before the downfall, Scott.
It's possible, right? And then you also see them like reshaping their religion so that they can try to hold themselves up to a godlike status, you know, like a living deity that the people should worship, and you know, stuff like that. So it is very interesting, you know. That is a very good point you bring up. You know, how much of that knowledge was just lost at that time?
Yeah.
You know, we're not even talking about how much things have changed since then, and how much.
Scott, I mean, that does sound weird, doesn't it? You know, in addition, the markings in the 5 spaces were simple during the Old and the Middle Kingdoms. But then you've got a change in the New Kingdom. They use more elaborate drawings and hieroglyphic inscriptions, probably to tip their hat to the ruler of that time. And whoever
Yeah.
it was meant to signify before or whatever it might have meant, well, to hell with it, because I'm the boss now.
Yeah, I equate a lot of this stuff that like these pharaohs did to almost like the way that when the Catholic Church was formed and how you had the Pope just kind of declare that, hey, I'm kind of the I'm the middleman. God speaks to me, and then you see a lot of those kind of parallels
Kiss
as
his
well.
ring.
Right?
Kiss his ring. I'll tell you, you can kiss my ring, big man. That's what I'd be telling him.
And you had these pharaohs pop up that are like, "Hey, I'm in communication with the gods. I'm a living god down here, and you need to worship me," and all of this stuff. There's really no difference between that. They use that kind of they use that as a vehicle to consolidate their power, right? And
for anyone who is Catholic out there, I live with a Catholic. My son's Catholic. I've got nothing against Catholics. But that place, the Vatican, that ain't Catholic. And I tell you, Scott, I often kind of think to myself, and this is nothing that doesn't take away from the whole Jesus story or Christianity, but that Roman Empire, when it get all decadent and the woke brigade turned into the orgy brigade and it all started falling down and things, well, they took off their robes and they put on another type of robe. And then they went round and they conquered places with a book instead of the sword, The Roman Empire, it just kind of morphed into the Roman Catholic Church.
well, yeah, exactly. The Roman Empire lives on.
Yeah.
The Roman Empire never died. It morphed into a different entity, right? And
how sick is that, though, right? If you go with the full Jesus story, so you got the Romans putting him to death, and then like later on, when it starts all going wrong for Rome, they think, right, see that dude, remember him? Yeah, right. We're gonna tell his story, right? And we're gonna forget everything we've done, forget our raping and pillaging. We're gonna put on white dresses. We're gonna look so non-combative. It's brilliant. They won't even see us coming. And what we'll do is we'll go around and we'll spread the good word. And people will just, they won't notice the fact that we've just morphed into something else. Don't worry about it.
The thing is that Christianity was spreading and there was no way that they were going to be able to stop it, right? And so the Romans decided, well, I guess we need to start incorporating aspects of it into Roman society, right? And
you know how they say, never let a good crisis go to waste. Never let a new religion go to waste, Scott. There's always something.
Exactly.
You can use it for something.
And then you ended up getting the amalgamation, right? The merging of Roman paganism and Christianity got mashed together, that way it would be more palatable to the people, the Roman pagans that weren't really into this whole new Christian thing that had popped up. So you had to incorporate aspects of Roman paganism into it. And what do you get? Catholic Church ends up kind of becoming the result of that. Right, you see a lot of pagan sort of stuff going on in Catholic, Catholic stuff.
Never, not on Ishtar. I mean Easter.
Sun worship, and we're wearing our fish hats, and
don't mention the mitre, the fish hat, Scott. Telling you, man.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting.
It is a very interesting kind of way of looking at things. But just to finish off this little article, that'll take us up, not quite to the break, but it says here, because it's a modified tabular slab and has religious markings, Christ feels comfortable identifying this as the earliest known example of a board game of death. Since the decorations in the last squares are not fully religious, Christ puts the age of the Rosicrucian board at about 3,500 years between the reigns of Amos the First and Tutmos the Second. Future radiocarbon dating may give a more accurate time frame. And while playing the board game of death might sound exciting, would you really want to win if you knew it kept a soul from moving on to the afterlife? Now, that's a rigged game. You ain't gonna win that. That's a sick dude that takes on a spirit that ain't even there to play. You're gonna hand him the game, right? You're not gonna condemn him to the fiery pits of wherever he goes if he doesn't get it. You know what I'm saying? Oh, hang on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. We've had a communication from the pop. No, no, he's typing. Typing with his elbows. He's taking that slow. Do you know what I mean?
You need to get your comms on. We've received a communication. We've received communication.
One. That's it, Scott. See, a third time lucky. I found it. Popeye. He says he's... Hang on, let me take that off. He says he's shoving something down his throat. That's all I can see on, like, the little blurb of, like, the message. I don't even know if I want to see... I'm hoping it says food. I'm hoping... Can I take food as my answer, please?
Yeah, Popeye, you can't leave it open ended like that. That's that.
I think now would be a really rude and really bad time to drag him into the call. So let's do that, shall we? Yes, indeed. I'm sure Popeye will have plenty to say about the ancient woo. He was getting excited last time with the pictures of Baalbek up, and oh, dude. You know what it's like when you get into all that stuff. Hours just turn into minutes, and before you know it, the birds are singing outside, and Anne's getting up to go to work in the morning, and oh, dude, it's a nightmare.
I mean, look, we're already halfway through the show.
I know. He's just now he's not playing. It is food he's having. So yeah, after Popeye's fed himself now, you see, I tell you.
He's got to get plenty of like omega-3s and everything. He's got to keep the beard, got to keep the coat nice, right?
Something like that, Scott. So anyway, let's go and take a look at some more ancient woo. What do you think? Because I'm enjoying this dive down the ancient rabbit hole tonight. And this here, we've got 10 unsolved archaeological mysteries. Yes, indeedy. So there's some good ones in here. A lot of good stuff to talk about, Scott. It says, over the years, Ancient Origins has reported on thousands of archaeological mysteries that have not yet been resolved. Here we have chosen to highlight just 10 of these ancient enigmas, from lost labyrinths to enormous geoglyphs, stone masonry with exceptional precision, mysterious figurines, and giant spheres. I'm glad it said spheres there, because if it said something else, I'd have burst out laughing. Perhaps one day we will find the answers to some of the questions posed by these intriguing sites. So then, starting off quite appropriately, quite apt with the last story, the Lost Labyrinth of Egypt. Now, I seen somewhere in the news just recently, and I'll try and dig it up in just a moment, but I think they've been using some of that LiDAR technology to scan, not the pyramid this time, but actually scanning the Giza Plateau. Now, Scott, can you remember a few years back? We definitely talked about it, but there was a scientist, a lady, and it was a BBC report, and it was about a 10-minute video. And what it was, she had claimed that she had discovered potentially hundreds of new pyramids in Egypt. And what she had done was they had used satellite imagery, and then they'd put it through a specific filter. It's the kind of things that they actually use when they're going looking for like mineral deposits and stuff like that, Scott. And what it came back with, it looked like there was You know, under most of the sands of Egypt, there were cities, there looked like the bases of pyramids, and I think that's the same technology that's now being deployed around the plateau. Because I've always wondered, and again, don't know until they scan it, and even then we'll have to take them on their face value, the results, but I've always thought there's probably a hell of a lot more. In fact, maybe we're only seeing, I don't know, 10, 20% of what that whole kind of area was like.
I think I actually think that number is even
Probably.
I think we're probably looking at maybe.
Wow. So then, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Dang, dude, that went pretty quickly. That went really quickly. So yeah, I'm going to try and see the latest to see if I can find that story. Because it was recently in the news. Egypt.
Yeah, I mean, we've only scratched the surface. I think, we've only probably uncovered between like 1% and 3%, to be honest. And here's another interesting question. Was the Egypt, a lot of the stuff that we're uncovering in Egypt, was that built on top of some other civilization as well? What's under that civilization?
Exactly, Scott. And this ties in with what Max was talking about the other night as well. It's like some cataclysm or something comes along, some reset, and then we just build again on top of the last level.
Yeah, I mean, how many layers of civilizations are there? And, does it just reach a point to where you're really not going to find much evidence of some of these civilizations? Because, I mean, over a period of time, it's just going to literally, like, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. It's going to eventually just become part of the earth again, and you're not going to really be able to distinguish, once you go beyond a certain point. But I honestly think the Egyptian civilization was built on top of a previous civilization, and who knew if that civilization was built on top of another one?
Keep going. Who knows?
Yeah, this is the question of how long has that been going on?
No, hang on. I've lost your camera again. Where have you gone, Scott? Where have you gone?
I'm flipping in and out of existence.
There we go. There he goes. There he goes.
There we are. There
So then, there's that headline there. It's not the exact one I was talking about. It's about another tunnel system. And, wait till I bring it up here. There it is. Yeah. How labyrinths of tunnels were found below pyramid. Sensational. An Egypt archaeologist, uncovered a... Would he not just be an archaeologist in Egypt, or would he be an Egyptian archaeologist? Come on, Express. Come on. An Egypt archaeologist.
Probably one of those AI written
Wouldn't
articles.
Surprise me, Scott. Yeah, would not surprise me. Uncovered a labyrinth of underground tunnels near one of the most famous pyramid sites in what a modern historian dubbed sensational during a documentary. So the city of Saqqara is best known for being the home of the Pyramid of Djoser, also known as the Step Pyramid, built in the 27th century BC during the Third Dynasty. I mean, look at the state of that thing. I don't know, but there's obviously been a bit of knowledge. I don't know. Anyway, but the six-tiered structure is the earliest known attempt of what the ancient civilization became best known for. However, archaeologists uncovered something even more amazing below the surface. Oh, hang on, need to check the time. It's almost that time to go back to the network. Here we go. I didn't forget this week, Scott, see? Here we go.
How dare you?
Yes, how dare we? How dare we? One half of the show down and one half of the show to go. And it doesn't end there. Because Scotty's been on, I've been on, and we can't recommend highly enough the Paranormal Portal. And I'm quite proud of the fact, Scott, that we're almost like the fluffers for Brent and Big Don over there on the portal. We warm the crowd up. We get them into just the right frame of mind to go through the portal.
Big Don Longbeard. Whose beard would win? Popeye's beard or Don's beard?
Don's beard, because Don also looks like he's a big boy. Like height wise, he doesn't like me and Popeye. We're knee high to the grasshopper, but that's okay. That's okay because small ninjas roll like that. But Don, yeah, I think me on top of Popeye's shoulders, probably just about tickle his beard at that point. Maybe. Some people say in the dark, some people mistake Don Longbeard for the Sasquatch because of the beard. I told them that's rubbish. That can't be the case. No, because Brent would have told us by now if he was co-hosting with a genuine Bigfoot. Don's probably listening right now going, when can I get a hold of that Kev Baker? Well, I'll tell you when he can get a hold of me. He can get a hold of me. Not physically, but I will be with him and Scott and Brent and Joe on the 13th. Friday, the 13th of March, for not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 hours. 5 hours of woo. I'm really looking forward to that, Scott. I can't wait.
Get your Red Bulls ready. Get geared up. Get a good night's sleep beforehand because the woo shall floweth that day.
I mean, Don and Brent together. Brent in particular. I mean, he's like the encyclopedia of woo. Now, you mentioned Ryan Gable earlier on. He's like that deep knowledge of the occult and all the symbology. Well, your man, Brent, it's the same when it comes to like Mothman, Dogman, the Rake. You throw it at him and bang, conversation started. Oh, it's awesome. I had so much fun on there. It was brilliant, dude. Brilliant.
Yeah. The Paranormal Portal is just it's a whole nother level. It's a whole different level of woo when you get sucked into the portal. So it ought to be good. It's going to be a collision.
It might be the show that breaks the internet. Maybe it'll just be too much woo, dude. Maybe.
Possibly.
Never know. If we're not all quarantined by that point, that is. I'm only joking, folks. I'm only joking. But yeah, let's get back into these ancient mysteries, shall we? I like this stuff. So, big complex under the pyramid. I think me and Scott agree, most likely. It says, quote, "This I have actually seen, a work beyond words. For if anyone put together the buildings of the Greeks and display of their labours, they would seem lesser in both effort and expense of this labyrinth. Even the pyramids are beyond words, and each was equal to many and mighty works of the Greeks. Yet the labyrinth surpasses even the pyramids." These are the words of the ancient Greek historian Herodotus, written in the 5th century BC, in a book called Histories, Book 2, page 148, if you really want to get into the details of it.
Hey, look, if you've got the Greeks going out, and look, the Greeks and they're historians and they're scholars. Even to this day, I hold them as probably the most logical thinking, of any society, right? They were not into wild speculation and just making crap up.
No.
Right. And when you got a Greek historian, when you got Herodotus going, look, this thing surpasses anything we've done. This thing surpasses even the pyramid itself. that's a pretty huge statement. That's a pretty huge thing for him to go, look, this is beyond basically he's saying this is beyond anything that is technically capable at this time, that nobody, as far as we know, can pull something like this off, but there it is. There it is.
Like you say, according to Herodotus, it takes everything the Greeks done and just pales it into insignificance.
Yeah.
It says, describing a colossal temple said to contain 3,000 rooms full of hieroglyphs and paintings. It was named the Labyrinth by the Greeks after the complex maze of corridors designed by Daedalus for King Minos of Crete, where the legendary Minotaur dwelt. Yet today, nothing remains of this supposedly grand temple complex, at least not on the surface. And although the words of Herodotus have frequently been drawn into question, the detailed and consistent descriptions of the labyrinth from multiple sources indicate that it's a place that did indeed exist in the past. In fact,
how arrogant, how arrogant is that, dude, to sit there and try to discount.
Yeah, it's only Herodotus. Who cares what he says? You know what?
Herodotus. Yeah, it's only famed. It's only the famed historian Herodotus. Why? Just because he's an ancient dude? Are you just gonna go? Oh, he was just making it up.
He didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't know
what he was talking about.
He'd been licking too many of those crazy toads bums.
It's because what he described does not fit the official historical narrative that they want to push on everybody. And so the only way that they can sort of justify their version of things is just to say, well, Herodotus was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? It doesn't matter why. He just was. He got called into question a number of times, and that should be good enough for you. So he's wrong. Right? Forget these Greek people. They knew nothing. It says here, in fact, in the last century, great gains have been made in identifying its location, culminating in the latest Mataha exhibition, which has used the highest level of technology to finally unlock the secrets of the lost labyrinth. The researchers have faced numerous obstacles, but it's hoped that excavations can be launched in future in order to potentially shed light on one of the greatest mysteries of antiquity.
Doesn't look like Herodotus was wrong.
Nah, not when our technology's starting to prove them right. But, yeah, there's a whole website here about the Labyrinth of Egypt, but it doesn't seem to go anywhere. Nah.
Maybe they're still working on it or something.
But no, I said, though, Scott, I'd seen new scans had been done, but nothing more about it after that. Interesting. So it says, the unknown burial place of Alexander the Great. Now, I'll tell you right now, somebody I don't know much about, Alexander the Great.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, we know who he is. We know that he, quote unquote, conquered the known world at the time, right? But
he gets a bit of a bad rap. He doesn't get many films made about him and stuff, Well,
there is the movie Alexander, pretty good, But no, I've never really, dwelled into Alexander, and actually did any sort of deep research into him. I mean, like I said, we obviously know who he is.
Max in Germany sitting right now going, "Oh, guys, I have a new show. We can do, and it's going to tie in with all the woo."
But as far as I know, it was the people he conquered, he allowed them to practice their religion and all of that stuff, and that's why he was able to conquer so much is that, at least as far as I understand, he didn't subjugate everybody he conquered.
So maybe this is why we're not getting to hear about him, perhaps. Maybe this is why they just
Yeah.
told us to turn that page in history and move on.
Yeah, like he didn't just enslave everybody and treat them like crap and subjugate them. He just kind of came in, took over.
We can't have people getting that idea, Scott.
And then, allowed them to carry on. Oh.
Seemingly he's here. Oh, he's here. Can you feel it? I feel a presence on the stream. It's like the beard has arrived. How you doing, Popeye? Absolutely ages since I've last spoke to you.
It's been ages. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I know, man. I've missed
3 hours.
you. I've missed you, Popstar. How you been doing?
Hello, gentlemen. Hi, Scott.
Hello, Popeye.
Did he get eaten up by the vortex? Did he get swallowed up? Where'd he go?
He kind of blinks in and out of like this reality.
I blip in and out of existence whenever I decide, so that's what happens.
We were just talking about
That was
ancient
pretty
woo
cool.
there,
I don't know how you
Popeye.
did that, but that's why I said you're like Doctor Strange. See?
See?
Right there.
There we go.
You just opened a portal.
That flux capacitor that he's got in his new chair, I've told him to stop playing with it, but I don't know. But yeah, we were getting into some ancient woo, Popeye, and we were talking about the potential or the possibility of a massive labyrinth being under the sands of the Giza Plateau. And they were quoting Herodotus, and he was talking about how it was this grand 3,000 room structure and hieroglyphs everywhere. But, present day researchers have said, you can't really take anything he said seriously, so probably didn't exist. Only now we've got technology that's saying, guess what, there might well be a labyrinth underneath that sand there. And it just makes you wonder, myself and Scott were saying that, Popeye, makes you wonder, what are we seeing on the Giza Plateau? 10%, 20%? What does that full thing look like, if you were to reveal it all? Dang, dude.
I think it's funny how mainstream science, archaeology, whatever, can look at things from the past, like ancient cultures, and immediately just assume that they're primitive and that they're archaic and that it's all made up. Everything that they believed was a myth, but everything we believe today, that's the way it is. We've nailed it. We know it to be 100% accurate. Well, don't you think they thought their stuff was 100% accurate? And how do we know it's a myth? Like, no, I think it's funny because we rely on these ancient cultures, these same ancient people that we say were primitive and there's no way they could have done any of this and they just must be myth. We rely on their information to tell us what was going on back then because we weren't there. So how do you know? Oh, well, it's an interpretation, and I went to school for 20 years, and I'm an academic, so I can tell you, and I'm doing so with such an air of authority in my voice. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I told Kev. I mean, how arrogant is that to just sit there and discount Herodotus, right? I mean, he's a Greek historian. And what, just because he lived in these ancient times, oh, well, he didn't know what he was talking about. We have reason to question what he said. Why would Herodotus lie about something like that? What does he have to gain by lying about a giant?
I know that is, Scott. He had like an ancient chronovisor and he thought, I'm going to troll people in the 21st century. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to baffle about
it's
some...
so ridiculous. Like a Greek historian had nothing better to do than to just make up a story about a massive Egyptian structure that surpassed anything that the Greeks had built. Come on.
And then the week after that, they tried to topple that, or they tried to top it with, some story about some concentric circled city called Atlantis. It's just another tall tale that somebody made up in a bath one day, Scott. That'll do. I'll leave that, I'll leave that for the people to come in the future.
Yeah, I mean, come on now. It's so ridiculous, you know. Like I said, the science is so dogmatic now, you know, and so arrogant that, you know, they're willing to discount, you know, stuff that has been said in the past by other historians. You know what I mean? It's so crazy, man. So crazy.
No, it is, and we were even talking earlier on, Popeye, about, you know, how I thought it might be controversial at the time, but we've got a good audience here and they get it. I was saying, you know, like old pale faces like me and Scotty, I think at one time, you know, we were either spliced in here or came from somewhere totally different altogether, be it Mars, somewhere else. So yeah, we're going deep woo tonight, Popeye. In fact, it's kind of the perfect follow-on for that stream we done a couple of weeks ago where we were looking at Baalbek and all the kind of stuff there. So yeah, deep woo, my friend.
Baalbek, Lebanon. All I gotta say is, how'd they move those stones? How'd they do it? How'd they do that? With what? Wood? They did that with wood and rope and some camels, horses. What pulled it? What exactly? What was the mechanics behind all that? Oh, that's impossible. Oh, okay. They couldn't do it today. Oh, okay. Interesting. So Elon Musk would have a problem doing it, but they didn't. So what did they know that he doesn't know? Let me ask you that. There's one for you to ponder, unless you think Elon Musk is an animatronic robot. Then maybe he's not real. But if you think he's a real individual, let me pose that question to you. Look at the technology that we have today, and yet we still haven't figured out how they built the pyramids. I love the lie, though. The ramp was huge. I remember in school the ramp was like a mile long. Really? Where's the evidence of that ramp? There's not one stone. No, well, they needed it to build the other pyramids. Okay, but then they built those with a ramp, right? Well, yes. Okay, well, then where's that ramp? Well, they demolished it and took it apart to build another ramp, to build another pyramid. Okay, but the point is, at one point, there has to be a ramp left over when they're all done. You're going to tell me there's not one stone from that thing somewhere? Not one. The amount of time it would be required to dismantle that thing, there's not one stone somewhere, not a tool, not a piece of wood, timber, anything that would prove your theory of rolling the stones on logs using rope and animals to pull it and, you know, manpower and slavery pulling it. Really? How does that logically sound? Does that sound? It doesn't sound sensible at all, does it? To me, I think maybe levitation or harmonics or something. Oh, look, you can lift heavy things, Scott. Look, look, they're levitating things with sound now in 2020. Oh, whoa, how scientific. Whoa.
It's like I've told Kev, you know, all of this stuff that we're, you know, quote unquote, discovering, right? You know, this acoustic levitation and all of that. We're simply rediscovering it. You know, this technology existed once before. We've forgotten it. We've lost the knowledge, and now we're starting to rediscover the stuff that once existed. And yeah, I mean, you're right. You know, where's the evidence of the ramp? And you know, that's what I learned in school as well. Oh, the giant ramp that they were rolling these massive blocks on logs and all of this stuff. And I'm like, come on. Even back then, I'm like, that just sounds kind of ridiculous, you know? And here's another question. Why has every pyramid that has been built since been progressively worse, or doesn't even come close to the quality, right? It doesn't have the perfect angles. How do you get worse at something? You would think that a culture that was building these things would get better and better and better at engineering, and would be making these things just being able to pump them out with no problem. But why are the quote unquote, or why are the newer Why are the newer pyramids worse than the Great Pyramid? Riddle me that one. No, that's because they were trying to emulate what was already there. Like I said, they stumbled upon that thing in the desert and they were like, holy crap, what the hell is that? That
There's
thing is
nothing wrong with that one,
great.
Scott. That was looking like a really good attempt. That
Look
one.
at that. Look at how terrible that is. I mean, look, and you're telling me that. Oh, see, come on.
Even the camel,
Right.
even the camel's
Well,
thinking.
no, you can
no
you
danger.
can see it even in Egyptian culture, dude. The camel doesn't look impressed. He's like, this thing
Yeah.
sucks. The look on his face is he's very unimpressed. But the Egyptian culture, if you look at it, they started off very intelligent, and as time progressed, they got stupider. And it's not me bashing them. I mean, as a society, like you can see that.
But why does that
they
ring a
went the
bell, Popeye?
opposite direction.
Why does that sound familiar for times that we're living in now?
Right. Well,
Oh,
there you go.
yeah.
So, but ask yourself, why did that happen? Well, they were given. What if they had access to technology in the beginning, and or beings, we'll say, that helped them understand this technology in the beginning, and then down the road they didn't have access to those beings anymore, and just the technology. And then as the technology broke or needed maintenance or repair, they couldn't do it because for whatever reason the information was not getting passed on from generation to generation. They were getting stupider with each new generation.
That goes back to what Kev was saying earlier. You know, what if he had some of these power hungry pharaohs that decided to occult the knowledge that existed before, and you just slowly started, they slowly started losing the knowledge over time, where, like you said, Popeye, that maybe in the beginning they had access to that technology and all that stuff. And, you're dealing with people, right? People want power, and they're like, you know what? Maybe I kind of want this technology to myself, and I don't want the rest of everybody to be having access to this. Maybe if I can start hiding some of this stuff from everybody, we can kind of control the population a lot easier, and yeah.
Well, they did. That's what the ancient mystery schools were. Even that's what ancient. That's what, like, when Bill Cooper used to do Mystery Babylon and all that. That's what all that was about. It was all about the ancient mystery schools and the ancient mystery religions. That's how their priesthood. That was their secret societies. The same thing you have today. Basically, it was they had access to knowledge that you and I, or the average folks, per se, don't. And because of that, it puts them in a position of power, because they can advance their own power or agenda because of it. Case in point, you know how Congress allowed themselves, even though the feds threw Martha Stewart in jail for insider trading, right? Congress, I can't remember what year they did it, but we'll say within the past 10 years, you can look this up, but within the past 10 years, between like 2010 to now, Congress made it legal for insider trading if you're a member of Congress. So they actually have access to information that we don't. Okay, right? So you could kind of see why it's considered like this priest class almost, why they're revered. Oh, they have access to info we don't. What do they know? Oh my God, what connections do they have? Well, they're using a lot of those connections to do what? Yes, nefarious things, but on the back end, they're also profiting in their own pocket because they're allowed to engage in insider trading, and it's not illegal for them. But if you go out and do it, Scott, or Kev, if you go out and do it, or if Tina goes out and does it, or I do it, or Joe does it, or whoever, guess what? We're going to jail.
Joe's doing nothing. He's got the
for a while.
sniffles. Joe's got the sniffles. Just the sniffles, Popeye. So he won't be doing any trading anytime soon.
Uh-oh, does Joe have the non-existent coronavirus?
He actually doesn't, but I thought it'd be a good kind of joke to have since he wasn't here tonight. And the last time the audience heard him, he was adamant that me and Scott were losing our minds because we were like getting excited about the common cold. It was just the sniffles. Don't worry about the 150 million people that are quarantined now. Oh, just the sniffles. They're just hyping it up. Our man Joe, where is he? It's not the same when he's not here. I'd rather abuse him when he's here. Far fairer that way.
Right? It's more fun to abuse him. It's easier to abuse him when he's not here, but it's way more fun to do it when he is here.
Exactly. And we're going to be going to the break in a moment, folks. We've got 1 hour to go right here on Freaky Friday. We've got more ancient mysteries. Who knows how many we'll get to. The conversation is flowing. It was myself and Scott before we started today. We're like, oh, you know, I don't know. We've got 3 hours in us. We could probably go for about 6, but no, don't get any ideas. We'll be right back. Yes, indeed. So we're still here on the YouTube. Yes, big thank you to all the people watching on YouTube. And remember, if you're a member of the channel, then head on over to the channel page. And on there, you're going to find the community button. Go in there. And you're going to see a post, if you remember. And it's going to have that handsome devil right there. And that is your link to this Sunday's member-only stream. So that's a members-only post, members-only stream. If you want to be there, click the join button. It's really cheap and easy to do. You get all of my cool emojis. You even, I tell you what, Scotty, yeah, when you think about this, I mean, that's some mark of respect when we gave Popeye his very own emoji, man. You know?
Yes.
I've got an ego. I've got an ego myself, but I don't see any pictures of me on there. You know? Look at my sitting.
I actually enjoy my emoji. I think it's awesome that my beard has its own emoji. It's awesome.
Even better that the algorithm looked at it and said,
I was driving down the road when I was texting you guys. I guess I shouldn't say that. That's a bad example. But I was driving back to my house, and I heard y'all chatting. That's when I said to you, jealousy's a bitch.
Yeah.
So
we've seen that in the chat room.
Yes, my beard is extremely long. I kind of look like Gandalf right now.
Mine's is looking rather interesting. I've got like a two-tone thing.
Oh yeah, dude, I totally got the grays going.
Yeah.
Mine, yeah, it's
quite cool
like
actually. It's like nature's been kind. It's made it symmetrical. So I'd hate to look like one of these kind of like lopsided badgers with a big white bit on one side or something. That looks just ridiculous. You know what I mean?
That's what my uncle's got, because he's got like a skin pigment condition, and so like half of his beard is white and the other half is like just colored normal, you know, brown or whatever. And actually looks kind of cool though. It's very unique looking.
Yeah, but that's kind of cool. You have it like where it's actually like split down the middle like that, and it's cool.
Yeah.
Something in the chat room's asking for a Joe emoji. And I started to think to myself, just which version of Joe could we use for the emoji? He's the man that's launched 1,000 Photoshops.
Joe's
emoji, I think, should be his doll face.
You think so? I've actually got that. I've got that. Yep.
And for those of you out there, my emoji, I crafted that one myself.
You did?
Yeah.
Yep. People thought I was being cruel, turning you into Shrek like that. I wouldn't roll like that,
No,
Scott.
I turned myself into Shrek.
That's how we roll on here. I can't find Joe looking that way. That's rather
the Photoshop wars of 2013.
Oh, good times, Popeye.
Those were some legendary wars. Let me tell you something. There was battles fought there, ladies and gentlemen. The Photoshop wars of 2013. Whoa.
Uh-huh.
There were no prisoners taken.
You thought the meme wars of 2016 were bad. You don't know anything about the Photoshop wars of 2020.
Oh my God, it was horrible. We were dragging people, like just so many people into it. Oh, there were so many casualties, man. So much collateral damage. It was just not even funny. But well, I guess it really was funny.
It was fun. It was very fun. I'm watching the clock now. Sometimes I forget to go back to the network. It's an absolute nightmare. I know the audience get a good laugh at it and that, but it's an absolute nightmare. Here we go. Da-da-ding, da-da. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. 1 hour to go on your Freaky Friday with me, Kev Baker. We got Scotty Lopez here as well, and I'm actually pinching myself. We've got Popeye on Freaky Friday. This is pretty awesome. I was hanging out with Popeye earlier on, and I must have given him a taste for it, Scotty. He couldn't get enough. He was up for the Freaky Friday, man. But I tell you, it's like a blast from the past, right?
It is. It is. It's been a while since Freaky Friday has been graced with Popeye's presence. So good stuff. Good stuff. Good to get the poopster back into the woo.
The poopy. The poopster. So we'll go back to this.
Where's
list.
my buddy Chewbacca?
Oh, Scott's audio's broke, man.
Chewbacca's not coming through on the mixer right now. So I'll have to...
Chewbacca's confused. Chewbacca's now identifying as a young Swedish girl.
How dare you?
I know.
She's Swedish, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks, Sweden.
Hey,
You can have her back.
Speaking of the Swedes and Vikings, I've got
Oh. Right, this
I've got an
is good.
interesting- I got an interesting article here, which I've been meaning to bring up sometime, but I kept forgetting. But this is from a website called Electroverse, and actually, it's a pretty cool website. I've never even seen this site before, but it seems to cover a lot of the stuff that we talk about as far as Earth change, pole shift, all of that sort of.
The Vikings fascinate me, Scott. And again, I think back to your man Max coming on, talking about the warriors. Was it the 108 warriors coming out the halls of Valhalla? And he showed us how that ties in with something to do with nuclear physics. And it was like a head melting moment. But that whole Viking thing, I liked it when I was a kid. And then it got kind of reignited by the Vikings TV show. I must admit, I totally fell in love with that. And getting the chance to speak to Max and him digging deeper into the... And then becoming friends with Sid over in Norway. I tell you, dude, it's just pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm always down for some Viking woo because it's so cool, you know.
Yeah.
And so people check out Electroverse. Like I said, they cover solar stuff, everything we've been talking about, and they like to kind of blow holes in the whole climate change, global warming BS, and they really kind of get into what really is.
You triggered her. You can't talk about that, Scott. She gets triggered immediately. You know?
Yeah. Well, sorry, Greta, but it is what it is.
Imagine she's a descendant of these great people, the Vikings.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen, right?
Thor and Odin must be absolutely incandescent with rage.
If they saw how woke Sweden was now and how PC Sweden was, they would literally.
How do you know that she's not Loki in disguise? God of mischief, right?
Maybe in some weird, like, Monty Python version of the universe, Popeye. Maybe. You never know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Thor and Odin would be like, what?
Wasn't Freya? That was one of the female gods.
Yes, Freya was Thor's mother. That was Odin's wife.
Yeah, there you go then. There you go. See? So tell us, Scott, what is this, what's this telling us? What did they warn us about?
So it says, chilling 1,200-year-old Viking stone warns of future little ice ages. And I think the chilling was put as a pun. It was a pretty good pun, actually.
Very good.
It says, a secret code unsolved for 1,200 years has finally been cracked. The mysterious inscription on famed Viking relic, the Rockstone, or Rockstenen, reveals the warrior nation feared the return of the deadly late antique Little Ice Age, which wiped out more than half of Scandinavia. The stone speaks of an enduring battle against extreme cold weather in the 6th century. According to a study led by Per Holmberg, a professor of Swedish language at the University of Gothenburg, the text is telling a tale of light and darkness, warmth and cold, and it expresses a deep fear of a coming climate disaster.
How
The main
dare
theme-
you?
It says the main theme is apparently the sun, or the rhythm of light, Holmberg explained. Of the 9 riddles contained on the stone, 5 of them have the answer, the sun. It says, according to new archaeological research, roughly 300 years before Rockstenen was erected, the world was struck by a climate catastrophe which saw global average temperatures plunge significantly. Scandinavia was one of the regions worst impacted by this shift, with crop failure, starvation, and mass death ripping through northern Europe. More than 50% of the population was lost, along with many species. Furthermore, a string of violent volcanic eruptions darkened the skies with ash at the time, adding to the cooling and further amplifying the crop failure, famine, and wars. Before the rock stone was erected, several ominous events occurred, explained Go Grosslund, a professor of archaeology at Uppsala University. A strong solar storm painted the sky in dramatic red colors. The harvests were hit by an extremely cold summer, and later a solar eclipse occurred just after the sunrise. It could have been enough of one of these events to trigger concerns about a new Fimbulwinter. Why the runes were so deeply encrypted is anyone's guess. Perhaps whoever had the Rockstenen engraved didn't want just anyone to read it. It was a message of terror, after all. It was a reminder of a cataclysmic past. It was a warning of the terrible power of the sun. Per Holmberg and his team claim to have uncovered an ominous prophecy. The stone speaks of a battle enduring for centuries, but not a fight with man, but one with nature. It says for a full read of the researchers' recently published study, you can click there at that link if you want to check that out. It says we at Electroverse are also forewarning of the terrible power of the sun, and that these prophesized cold times are returning in earnest, in line with the historically low solar activity currently being experienced. It says even NASA agrees, in part at least, with their recent forecast revealing this next solar cycle, 25, will be the weakest of the past 200 years, with the agency correlating previous solar shutdowns to prolonged periods of global cooling.
I've seen people talking about this grand solar minimum, Scott. There's channels on YouTube cover it extensively.
And look, I mean, we've talked about many times how, look, the sun is the main driver of climate on this planet. Obviously, I mean that's like a no-brainer, right?
I can't talk to you two anymore because you guys just said
dare
some
you?
Exactly, Scott.
exactly. You just said some logic, and I can't handle that. I'm sorry. I thought the main driver of the climate on this planet was an SUV and cow farts.
And all those fridge doors that we left
How
open.
dare
in the
you,
80s.
Scott? How dare you introduce science into this and history, apparently?
Yeah. And look, obviously, this is something that the Vikings understood. They understood that the sun was the main driver of climate.
Yeah, Scott, when you go to the length of leaving a message encoded in riddles like that, I think they found it pretty important, whatever they were trying to do there.
Yeah, like they realized, sun, warm, no sun, cold. Maybe there's something.
Well, they're
to
an
that.
old culture. They're from the past, so they can't possibly know anything, right? I mean,
Oh yeah, well,
they were here already.
those pesky Vikings and the Greek historian Herodotus, they didn't know what they were talking about. Come on, Popeye.
Except, yeah, Herodotus didn't know what he was talking about, except when he did, and we do want to quote him. See, history really, or archaeology, and I guess even mainstream historians can't get their story straight, because sometimes they'll crap on these ancient cultures and it's just myth, and then in the same breath they'll expect you to something else that they came up with, but look at this discovery, look what they did, but I thought they were stupid. I thought all of their stuff was myth. And it's like, but which why am I supposed to believe one but not the other? Oh, well, because they couldn't possibly have been really discussing gene splicing back, in the Sumerian tablets. They couldn't actually have been discussing that. We're just figuring that out now. Well, but they were. So explain it. Well, it's myth. So they didn't have any other medium other than cuneiform tablets, which are like baked clay tablets. So that was the epitome of their writing and their storage medium for information like this, right? You're going to tell me that that was as far as they could go with that, but they were able to write about gene splicing. That doesn't make any sense. How would they have access to that information unless it was given to them? If they were still quote unquote primitive enough to use these clay tablets and not some other medium of storage, how did they have access to this information? You can't tell me that's myth. You can't tell me the stories where they had people coming down from the heavens above, the Anunnaki, as myth. I think we were a humanoid species. Something came here, jacked with us, whatever you want to call it, came here and messed with us, and fast forward to now, and this is what you have. Okay, I'm pretty sure of it.
Westworld. I'm telling you, we're in Westworld, man. Max Egan was right. This is a Westworld. Whoever put us here, I don't know. I don't know who owns Westworld, man. That's what I'm trying to figure out, Popeye. Who do we belong to?
I belong to nobody.
Hmm.
How's that sound?
I think we're somebody's pet project, man. Who knows?
Oh no, we're a science experiment for sure.
One that went horribly
we're
wrong.
Someone's like ant farm in their on their shelf.
Yeah, one that went wrong. I would imagine somewhere along the line. One of the patches that came along. I don't know what upgrade it was, but it all went horribly wrong somewhere. It must have been that woke upgrade that came along, Scott. Not that I've got things against the woke people or anything.
Who spilled the wokeness onto the ant farm again?
The woke experiment was knocked over and it bled into the.
They're even getting rid of Willy Wonka. They're even getting rid of Willy Wonka next.
What the hell?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Exactly.
Hey, why don't we just erase all of history that we don't like and makes us uncomfortable? Oh, because it hurts my feelings.
Why not just
right? So that way we don't learn
have a
from
new
it, right?
chocolate factory or a new soy factory and make a really cool check the owner of the factory. You can leave Willy Wonka alone, and then these kids growing up today can have, I don't know, maybe new like characters and things that they can relate to. Because I tell you, all I see around me is regurgitated crap. They're taking stuff from our childhoods. There's nothing new. You watch some of the new stuff, and I don't know who that's made for some of these cartoons. No idea.
Well, that's all they can do now is regurgitate old things because they have no creative. There's no creativity anymore in Hollywood, right? And not only that, they're so afraid of offending anybody that it's almost like you've stifled all creativity and ideas. So the only thing that's left is to regurgitate things from the past. But even then, they have to try and rework it. That way they don't offend anybody. And so they're destroying everything from the past as well. It's become a stagnant, stale sort of operation that you see going on in Hollywood, right? And that's also why they have to turn to comic books and comic book characters because there's more creativity in the writers of comic books than there is in the writers of people in Hollywood. So they're having to turn to the comic book industry in order to find storylines and ideas to go and work with. And even then they're trying to, they're jacking with that as well and making it all woke. And you're seeing that also infiltrate its way and slide its way into the comic book industry as well, where they're creating these, SJW themes in comic books and stuff. And it's like, man, is there nothing that it's like I always say, on today's episode of SJWs Ruin Everything, because that's what they do. Everything that they touch is destroyed and it gets ruined. And yeah, I mean that's basically what it boils down to. You don't really see any actual original ideas coming out of Hollywood anymore.
There's nothing new under the sun, Scott.
Nope.
And here, everybody put on their tinfoil hats for a second, right? And just let's put on our conspiracy thinking caps for uno momento. Okay. And think about it for a minute. You ever wonder if maybe that's done on purpose? That the same stories are regurgitated over and over and over again, and just with each generation, it's a new way of telling it. So for this younger generation, it's woke, right? For our generation, it was different. For the generation before us, it was different. There's a lot of movies that are out there that are the same story over and over and over again.
Yeah, they've all got those archetypes in them, don't they?
Yes, they all have certain archetypes in them, and they're telling stories, like The Man Who Would Be King. Right? It's an older movie with Sean Connery, and I can't remember his name. He's a British actor. He used to play The Equalizer on TV back in like the 80s.
Edward Woodward, Michael, yeah.
Yeah, Michael something.
Michael
yeah,
Caine,
him.
no?
Yeah, Michael Caine. That's him. Thank you. So they were in this movie, The Man Who Would Be King, and if there's an animated film, it's kind of an Illuminati themed movie, if you will. And when I say Illuminati, I mean like secret society. Yeah. Kind of themed film. In fact, the all-seeing eye is a symbol that he wears, like a chain. I think if I remember correctly, it was like he had a chain around his neck with it, and they thought he was a god because they had symbols on some of their sacred places that had the same thing. So they thought he was from, he was godly, and then they find out he's not, and that he's not God, and he falls from power and all this. But in the interim, he comes to power. Well, it's the same story. I'm trying to remember the animated movie. It was a Disney movie, but it's literally the same story in this animated Disney film, almost verbatim. It's the same type of theme. It's literally the same theme, and then you have the same archetypes and almost the exact same script, just tweaked a little bit for the cartoon. And I can't remember what it is. It's the one where they find that like the ancient Aztec city and the city of gold, and I can't remember what it was, but it was a Disney film, I think. It was one of the animated ones. But anyway, they redid. It's the same film, so they do that all the time. The point is, they remake these films. Boom, 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 boom. I have a thing. I have to find it. It should still be posted on Federal Jack. I'll see if I can find the video where there's a guy, probably about 10 years ago, he went into all this and he explains it, and he does a way better job than I'm doing, and he shows clips and stuff. And they do this constantly. So the point is, what are they doing? Well, they're telling you a story. Maybe you should pay attention to the story that they're telling you. And like Kev said, look at it very basically. Look at what archetypes are being used. Why? There's nothing new under the sun. Remember that saying. Keep that in the back of your mind when you look at this stuff. There's nothing new under the sun. It's all being regurgitated for a reason. They just, with every regurgitation, it's put out, like Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters came out when we were kids, right? And then now they put it back out, and they put out the woke version, and apparently did horrible.
Oh, don't start me. Don't start me.
Am I gonna trigger you, Kev?
Oh, it's hard, Popeye. It's hard. I'm just thinking back to the original, like Ghostbusters now, before it got broke, before it got woke and got very broke. Why not just
Well,
have?
it's just
Why
silly.
not have another
It's just-
movie? You know, three strong new characters. Make them women. I'd have gone and watched that. I like paranormal stuff, but I refuse to go and watch the scrubbing out of like the old stuff and then replaced. You know, to be more woke and things.
I also think part of this also is to destroy, to shatter the they find things and then it's to like to shatter the kind of patriarchy or whatever you want to call it, right? It's a way of like destroying these classic things, you know, and it's like their way of doing it, right? So you take like a film that sort of had that masculine sort of, you know, oomph to it, and then it's a way of like breaking it down,
taking
in
our
front of
knackers off.
face.
Just say it. Taking the knackers off us, man. That's what it is, Scott. That's what
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Emasculating, Scott. I
Yes.
think is the word you're looking for. Is
Yes.
emasculation.
Yes. In Scotland,
Yeah.
taking the knackers off you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and that's what they're gonna do. Like, how long is it gonna be until they watch? I guarantee they're gonna redo, like, say something like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or these classic westerns, right? Because those are the epitome of, you know, what they consider.
They have done some of those. They've already redone some of those where they do that. They have like a, you know, like an all-female cast, and again, why not just have an original story? Like again, there's plenty of female leads that I'm like, whoa, she's a badass, awesome. Like why invent the wheel? There's no need to.
No, see, that's why there's a reason why they're doing it. They're doing it intentionally. They want to take these classic things like these John Waynes, these
and then people like me and Scott
that
react, and we play into the stereotype that they're trying to build for us as toxic things of the past, dinosaurs, misogynists, these absolute creepers out there.
But it's also a way of rewriting. It's in a way, it's a way of rewriting history, right? Because they want you to forget about the old Western movie. And look, this is the new. This is what John Wayne is now. This is Jane Wayne. You know,
here's one that's going to put them in.
John Wayne mentality is an American thing. It's, you know, oh, you Americans think you're John Wayne, right? You even see it in action movies, right? They even know their bad guy always has some smart ass and like, oh, you think you're John Wayne, but it's a, you know, if you were going to stand up for your country, guys will look back to that, right? And they will look back and they'll look at like what the iconic masculine male, not, you know, steroided male, but masculine, you know, real male standing up, doing the right thing. They'll look for that icon. Well, if that icon doesn't exist, if you can get rid of that iconography and erase it, they don't have a point of reference to look at.
Yeah, see,
that's what they're doing.
This is all part of the demoralization of the population.
I'm demoralized, man. I'm demoralized. I'm feeling it. Here's one that'll get them really stuck, though, guys, right? I've thought about this before. One to throw the woke brigade in a bit of a conundrum. How are they going to make 3.5 men? Because if they replace the men with women, then they're actually going to be playing into the stereotypes that they're trying to, like, move away from. But at the same time, you can't leave 3 men in a movie starring and leading it up, right? You see, that's a bit of a conundrum there, isn't it? You know, because if you call it 3 women and a baby, well, hang on, that's very old-fashioned of you, you know? See, I found the one
That's pretty
movie.
Sexist, Kev.
Exactly,
Why does it have to be 3 women taking care of a baby?
I found the one movie that they probably can't touch. Fantastic. Yes, I spent too much time thinking about that one day when I was doing a number 2. But that's how I roll sometimes, guys. You know, the woke brigade, they trigger me. Willy Wonka triggered me.
Willy
Ghostbusters.
Wonka. It's Willy Wonka.
There you
Get it
go.
right.
Willy Wonka.
Willy
Yeah.
Wonka. Don't you
Wilma
ever,
Wonka. Wilma Wonka's chocolate factory.
don't
probably
you,
be soy
don't you
chocolate.
trigger Wilma Wonka.
It'll be
And
impossible.
and it's not chocolate. Why does it have to be chocolate?
Impossible fake chocolate.
Chocolate's not good for you. Why can't we have something like a tofu factory? And the magic is like at the bottom of, I don't know. It's like in a package filled with little cubed tofu. Maybe tofurkey. You have to eat an entire. It was around Thanksgiving, right? Maybe tofurkey. You have to eat an entire tofurkey to get to the magic ticket on the bottom.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Wilma Wonka and the tofu factory. Oh my God, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely no point me even trying to compete with that music there, man. It's like a full
right.
blast orchestra just comes at you.
Happy Feet in the chat said 3 transgenders and a baby.
Oh, there you go.
Oh.
There's the 2020 woke version of that movie. By the way, before it gets too far, one of the I think the listener's name was Tammy in the chat mentioned El Dorado, and a couple others said El Dorado too. Yes, so it's Road to El Dorado or El Dorado. It was an animated film, and another version of that film, by the way, and with the same archetypes. Before I forget, is Stargate. Same story. Almost
Stargate,
exactly.
awesome. Now, Popeye, you're
Just
you're an expert in my opinion on all things Matrix, right? I've got a cat coming on Monday. Not literally a cat, like a pussycat, but a dude, right? He's coming on Monday. Claims to have written the Matrix story, and it was stolen off him. What do you think, man?
There's a couple people that have blamed the Wachowskis for that. I don't know if it's the same guy.
I know it's like there's been court cases, and I think there's still court cases going on and stuff, and I don't know.
Well, if
I
we're
don't know,
all
dude.
connected, who's to say that you? I mean, we have the same thoughts, right? I mean,
Yeah.
where does terminology come from? The term fear porn. For the longest time, I used that on my radio show, and I started using that term before anybody that I know was using the terminology fear porn. And nowadays, I hear everybody using it. Now, can we really pinpoint whether or not I was the first individual to use it, or is it more likely that if I'm able to think of since we're all interconnected, right, and we're all electrical energy and impulses and vibrational frequency, perhaps there's other people that are thinking on the same frequency that I am.
Well, remember, what was it? Michael Jackson and Prince would always rush to, what was it, like copyright their songs that they would written like immediately, because they were afraid that like Michael Jackson would be afraid that Prince would come up with the exact same song or vice versa, so it does show that people, that is the case, hey, sometimes people just think of the same things at the same time, and you really can't pinpoint where it originated from. And I think that points more towards the fact that we're all pulling information from the ether, or whatever you want to call it, the Akashic records, or whatever that information.
Sorry, man, but Logos in the chat room, you're on your own, buddy. I looked to see what you said that triggered a couple of people in there, and dude, come on, man, you can't go saying things like that. Girls, have your way. That's all I'm gonna say. Ooh, dang, nothing like the wokeness to get people going.
Did Logos engage in a little toxic masculinity and get himself in trouble?
He knew. His next comment was, well, I bet you that offended a few people.
It happens. It happens.
It happens.
But no, I meant Popeye's right though. People think about the same things. Ideas, it just will come to light. I mean, we've seen it many times in the past too, where inventors on, in different parts of the world come up with the same idea, right? Independently of each other. It doesn't mean that one stole it off the other. It's just, it was that time, the information.
It's a good conversation. Yeah. Here we go.
How dare you?
Yes, welcome back. Final segment of today's Freaky Friday right here on your number one network. Not just your number one network, the number one network. Truth Frequency Radio. No hate, no hype, no fear. Where silence is consent and where we give you protection from deception. I've got Scotty Lopez here. Joe Joseph, he's off with the sniffles. It's just the sniffles, Kev. And we have, I know, Shockaroony. We've got Popeye here with us. Great to have Popeye hanging out with us. And during the break, as always, great conversation. Now, I see Lucky hanging out over in the chat room, over at tfrlive.com/chat. Remember, Brent Thomas, Paranormal Portal, right after this. So you can head on over there. Chill out. More woo to come. I remember Lucky saying to me one time, and I think it was Lucky, and she was talking about two music artists. I want to say Prince and Michael Jackson. It's irrelevant. It's, you know, the deeper kind of meaning to it. And we were talking about how if one of them had the inspiration for a new tune, new lyric, new song, even if it was like maybe 2, 3, 4 in the morning, they would immediately get their people on it and get it copyrighted, right? And the reason they'd be so keen and quick to get it on, Scotty, was because, as Lucky was telling me, and you know, it makes a bit of sense. Whichever one it was paranoid that the other one would go and get it copyrighted first. Now, I read into that they must be coming up. Yeah, they're coming up with similar tunes at the same time.
Yeah, they were afraid that the other person was thinking of the same sort of thing. And I mean, you got to think about it, right? Okay, so there's a certain style of sound that was popular at the time. So, you know, everybody's kind of probably thinking about the same sort of beats and the same sort of ideas. So you got that going. And then just the fact that they are two like prolifically creative artists, the likelihood is there that they would probably be thinking about tunes along the same theme, you know, same beats, and maybe even making the same kind of lyrics, you know. So that's definitely a possibility. And like I said, there's been examples in the past where like inventors have come up with the exact same thing, you know, and they live in completely different parts of the world, completely independent of each other. I just think that there's like certain points where the information just it's the time for that information to come to light, you know what I mean? And people tap into it, and everybody's kind of working either on the same thing or trying to figure out the same problem. Yeah, I think that's another thing too, that there's a problem that needs to be solved, and everybody's sitting there putting their minds, you know, thinking about how to fix that problem. And if there's, you know, only a few solutions to that problem, and then everybody ends up, you know, reducing it down to those few solutions, then of course you're going to have people that are going to end up coming up with the same idea, or, you know, creating the same solution to that problem. So, yeah, you know, just because people come up with the same idea independently of each other doesn't mean that they stole it. Like, you know, the Matrix thing, right? You know, did the Wachowski brothers, you know, steal it from this guy? Who knows? You know, did that? Maybe not. You know, maybe that's just kind of you know, we're talking about what, the 90s, late 90s when that was written. Technology was kind of in everyone's mind. You had the .com bubble. You know, the internet was the new exciting frontier, and I'm sure a lot of people writing you know, scripts and ideas were probably thinking along the lines of some kind of a crazy story like this. It's interesting because there's a band that I really like called Fear Factory, right? They wrote an album back in '95 called Demanufacture, and it's like a concept album. And it pretty much, if you read into the lyrics of the album and everything, it almost is exactly the same as The Matrix, right? So they wrote a concept album that was pretty much based on machines taking over humanity and all of this stuff. And you know, that we're just talking about a band here. Did the Wachowski brothers steal Fear Factories? You know, did they listen to the album and go, let's make a movie out of it? Maybe not, you know, but probably not. They probably don't even know who Fear Factory was. Maybe they did.
Right,
you know, maybe they were kind of maybe they were inspired by
other science fiction writers too that are out there that have written similar stories, like
Exactly.
iRobot or anything else out there, or you know, or the people that came up with the idea for Terminator. I mean, they're all kind of the same basic plot, right? The details and the character names may be different. Maybe the idea of the Matrix versus the Terminator. Yeah, you have two different stories going on where the Matrix is a simulated reality, and in the Terminator you have robots taking over. But you could argue that the Terminator series could be when the robots took over before it got to the Matrix part, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, for those of you out there who wanna do an interesting little thing and take a different take on everything, watch the Terminator films with the mindset that it is the prequel to the Matrix, and that will totally blow your mind.
There's a movie called The Animatrix. It was an animated set of animated shorts. There was like 6 or 7 of them that came out after the Matrix movies, and they were released in like some of the box sets, some of the special editions and stuff. You could probably find them online, or you could probably find like a used copy of it on eBay, or if you know where to stream it from or whatever, you can do that. But there's like, I think 6 or 7 animated shorts in there, and 2 of them there's 2 of them. It's called The Rise and Fall of Humanity Part 1 and 2, if I remember correctly. It's either that or something close to that. And it's animated, and it shows you like how robots, you know, what happened, and you know how humanity fell, and how the robots came to power, and then what led to the Matrix being what it was in the film. And it's pretty much the Terminator movie, Scott. But predominantly, like, that's why I tell people always, you can watch the first couple Terminators. If you really want to get the gist of it, watch the 4th one with Christian Bale, where they're like taking over and rounding people up and putting them in camps and exterminating people. Bingo. There you go. There's the precursor to the Matrix.
Yeah. The Animatrix is awesome, and I've referenced it here on Freaky Friday many, many times, because it gives you that context of how it all came to be, right? It's like it's the prequel, and it shows, you know, and then it also ties into a lot of the stuff we talk about today when we're talking about artificial intelligence, robots, you know, taking over, and you know,
this
in the
is happening now. This is happening now. There's people in Wuhan right now. They're taking a shot. They think they're waking up and going back to their real life, but really they're not. They're just lying asleep in a pod somewhere, and they've been inserted into the new reality.
Who knows, man?
How would you know? How would you know? How would you know, Scott, if you went to bed one night and woke up the next day, got about your business, done what you done? How would you know if somebody had put you into the mainframe? You wouldn't.
Unless you started noticing.
Well, it's kind of like
glitching out or something, you know.
Unless you
death too. I mean, you get reborn, you come back, you could wake up and you're a baby again. You know, and you don't
started noticing glitches, Kev. Unless you started noticing glitches, you know,
the cat going back and forth a few times, yeah.
Or certain.
Wait, you mean glitches like deja vu and stuff, Scott?
Certain historical events that we don't remember occurring.
Yeah. Now let me think. Oh, isn't that happening right now? You see, at one point we went to sleep and somebody put us into this Matrix, away from the one we were already in, Popeye.
It was the day after Trump was elected in 2016.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Like, I remember afterwards, the next day, everyone was like, doesn't it feel like we woke up in a different reality? And it wasn't because Trump was elected. There was something else there.
Some people
that was
say
the backdrop, so to speak. But there was something else there.
Some people I mean, 2001, we opened up when we were talking about that earlier on, Popeye. There's a lot of people say something happened with time there. Whether we shifted, whether it done something, but the ritual significance of what was going on that day, and you think about it, and yeah, we got the war on terror and everything else, but I think that's a pretty good marker, 2001, for when we really start to spiral, spin tail into where we are now.
Things really got crazy after that year, right? And after all that happened, and then I think things really started accelerating even more after we kind of crossed that 2012 time frame.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say
exactly
exact
well.
2012.
Yep.
Yeah, but things got really I mean, I don't know, personally, things really kind of went to crap, at least, in my personal life, as far as health and just things happening. After 2012, it was like rough, man. It was rough for quite a few years, and just people passing away and things like that. It just seemed like, man, things. It was a really. It was tough. It was like everybody was going through trials and tribulations or something around that time frame and afterwards. And of course, things have gotten better or whatever, but it almost feels like now we're entering another phase, like another kind of I don't know, man, but yeah, I don't know what's going on. If we're like, if we're sort of, if like two timelines or something are colliding together, or something is phasing in and out,
or they're slowly inserting us into the matrix.
it just seems like things have gotten really just crazy, man. Just really insane. But we'll see how it goes. All I know is that 2020 has definitely kicked off in very dramatic fashion, right? I mean, there was a lot going on.
Oh, it's hectic, man.
Are we rapturing this year?
Oh, I tell you what, if it's not this year, it must be getting close. What's Begley said? He'll know.
When's the next? I'm not sure when the next rapture is. I just wanted to make sure so I can put it on my calendar. I figured the year already started off pretty intense, so I was like, maybe this is rapture year, just not sure.
But it has been. I mean, we've been doing this a long time, guys, right? So we've lived through like busy news periods, if you want to call them that. I don't remember anything like this. Nothing quite like this.
But have you guys, I mean, because I've noticed this with a lot of people too, like not just me. I mean, it just seems like everybody within our circle, but then not only that, I mean, a lot of people, it seems like it's been really rough since 2012. They went through quite a few years of just rough things that they've had to go through, whether it be losing loved ones or health issues or financial issues, anything like that. It just seems like a lot of people have been like, the universe just decided to take a giant dump on everybody, and I don't know why that is. But it especially seems like it's hit a lot of people. I hate to use the term, but like, within the truth movement or whatever, people that do.
I'm laughing.
I'm
laughing because Popeye, I'll let you talk about movements. So funny, Scott. Synchronistic, man. Brilliant.
No, he's right. Scott knows how I feel about the term truth movement. He knows what I say.
Well, yes, I know. I have to use something to.
No, I know what you mean. You are correct, Scotty. You are correct. Like everybody that was speaking truth to power at the time, so to speak, or truth seekers, that people that were giving out information. Everybody seems to have gone through. Some people passed away. Some of us lost people. Some of us went through physical pain. Some of us went through, just horrible health problems. And you you look at it and it's like, wow. Like if you step back and you try to look at it from an outsider's perspective and you turn off all emotion and you just looked at this bunch of people all having these like really bad problems, coincidentally all at the same time, and they all know each other and or all work within like the same community, right? So to speak, working together to a degree, in some cases, some closer than others, but still all working in this community. And they all have these problems befall them. You would have to look at it with a scientific logic mind and say, that can't be coincidental.
Yeah, because out of a population of, like, for argument's sake, 7.5 billion people on the planet, we're insignificant when you look at our numbers, right? But yet, in that insignificant amount of people, all of these things so many things to kind of befall people in that group. Like you say, Popeye, it's a bit of a statistical anomaly. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it doesn't make any sense, because how is it that small statistic by itself could have 100% problem?
Yeah, every single problem that's going is going to visit just that small group of people. I'm not saying that
it doesn't
nobody
make any
else in the
sense.
world didn't suffer or go through stuff, but in that small section, that study group, I mean, it wouldn't be relevant to even put forward as a study group. And I'm not putting us down, but our numbers aren't vast. We're not legions of people, It's crazy,
Right,
man.
exactly. So then that begs the question, what's going on? So if you believe in energy and you believe in love and you believe in fear, and you believe in those two frequencies and understand how they work, and you believe that there is, for good, there is evil, right? I've seen evil with my own two eyes. I've seen evil people. I've met them. Okay. I can tell you there are very bad people out there. And there are even worse people than I've ever met, or you've ever met, or, many of you have ever met out there listening. Some of you may have met very evil people. My point is, it is a force that does exist. Do we fully understand where evil comes from? What fuels that? Why every one of us is capable of it? Because all men, and when I say all men and women, all humans, let me rephrase that, all humans. And it's important that I'm all inclusive with it, because all humans are capable of evil or love or hate or anger or fear. We're capable of all of those. It's what we tune into and what we follow, the frequency to a degree. So, some really evil people are just born that way. Honestly, they just come into this incarnation like an agent, so to speak, like Agent Smith. Some of them are just really bad. So not everybody is hunky-dory and Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farms. It does exist. We should kind of look into that, maybe, huh? Maybe try to figure out what that actually is. See, if we grew up and stopped killing each other over whose piece of sand is more holy than the other person's, and whose version of the same thing is better, maybe we could answer some of these questions, because we could focus our energy on that. And hey, with automation, we could do that when everybody freaks out. Oh my God, or if robots take over automation, and I'm not talking about, Atlas robots, but you know what I mean, robotic machinery. Well, if it takes over production, what do we do, Popeye? Well, maybe we won't have to be slaves anymore. And maybe, just maybe, we can, as a species, level up a couple degrees. And maybe that would get rid of a lot of the problems that we have with dealing with each other and dealing with other things, because we would look at things on a totally different level, and we'd probably realize, oh, whoa, well, we were being a bunch of idiots. We that was really basic thinking. Why were we thinking that way? Oh, well, because we weren't in the right state of mind. We weren't on the next level yet, but now we are. So yeah, I don't have a problem with automation, because it would allow us to level up. Do you really think that the epitome of humankind is to wake up at like 7 o'clock in the morning, go to work till 5 o'clock in the afternoon, drive home in traffic, or work the night shift? No. God created us in his image to work in a factory? No. you, me, and everybody else around here is all way more capable than that. That's what they want you to think is the epitome of human existence, and it's not. So when people are afraid of automation, I say bring on automation when it comes to factories and stuff. That would allow us to fix so many other problems because we're not busy taking care of things and making things. What if we could take some of those lesser responsibilities, even though they take up a large portion of our time? What if we could think about it in your house? If you could have the cleaning in your house, the trash taken care of, and if you have cats and dogs, have like the cat and the dog being fed and like the litter boxes being scooped out and stuff, all taken care of by a robot. Right? And it takes care of it. You don't have to abuse the robot. See, that's how most of these stories end up going bad, is humankind abuse the robots. Well, how about we just don't be dicks? I mean, maybe we could learn, right? Maybe that's one of the first things we could learn is how to be civil to each other and maybe robots, right? Then the robots could take care of things. Again, we don't have to have Atlas walking around with 2 legs and arms and like overpowering us there. And we maybe, I don't know, use Asimov's rules of robotics as a starting point, come up with rules that they, just like they've done in the science fiction films. Of course, that didn't really go too well. But anyway, what if you could automate some of the things in your house, right? And you could have your house of, let's say 25% of the things that you have to do, your chores, or 33% of the chores. Well, we'll use an esoteric number. Ooh, right? 33% of your chores could be automated and you wouldn't have to do them. What could you do with 33% more time during the course of the day?
Oh, dude, what I could get up to. Me and Scott could become highly proficient on Call of Duty for a start, Scott. No.
Well, you could. I mean, you could screw off and play video games for a couple of weeks, but even that would get boring after a while, and it would be like, all right, what am I going to do today? Eventually Scott would be, pulling his Doctor Strange trick and opening portals and going places, right? You'd be doing your Iron Man thing, Kev, and probably have a suit of armor that shot lasers out of the hands, right? We'd all be able to do a lot of things because
I'm like William Wallace. I fire bolts of lightning out my arse.
Think about how much mankind is stifled by the need for us to go out and do some of the basic production things that we have to do. Whereas if we could automate some of that or create technology that would help complement the people that do it, so that way maybe you wouldn't need as many people to do it. Oh my God, then they'll lose their jobs. Well, then maybe because those people lose their jobs, maybe we retrain the ones that are capable, because there's a lot of smart people that do construction jobs and manufacturing jobs. How about we retrain them and we come up with new jobs? Maybe they learn some science and maybe they end up helping explore the oceans or mountains, or hey, I don't know, maybe we cure cancer or we cure other problems like asthma or Chiari or anything. How about we learn how to make better robotic limbs, and how about limbs, and we 3D print stuff for people? If we
hang on, here comes Brian. Go on, Brian.
The crazy voices of reason.
Oh, I like that. We are the crazy voices of reason. Yes, and then at the weekend we shift gears and we give you the everything you need to know about nothing stream. I tell you, if you think this is off the chain, then you need to hear that. But we're almost out of time. Time flies when Popeye enters the room and Scott has free control over the flux capacitor. A big shout out to Joe Joseph. I hope it's not the sniffles, mate. Just the sniffles, Scotty. Just a sniffle. Don't worry about it.
Like I said, that cruise ship is docked in New Jersey. Joe Joseph's up in the Northeast. Like I said, did he decide he was going to take a vacation, go on a cruise ship, and whoopsie.
Well, it's like I say, I'll tell you, man, if the old Corona makes its way over here and gets a bit leery, I'll be sending for Joe. He doesn't mind taking it on. He'll roll up his sleeves and he'll go toe to toe with it. No problem. Just the sniffles. Just the sniffles, man. But we will be back, or I'll be back, sorry, on Monday with a pretty interesting show. I'm really looking forward to this one. I've got somebody coming onto the show that claims that they are the person that came up with the Matrix. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Very, very good show.
It'll be very interesting. It'll be very interesting.
Very interesting. And we've got Ryan Gable coming on next week as well. Super Bowl woo. And
Yeah.
Max will be back to talk about high technology, UFOs, how the Tibetan, the Nordic, all of that stuff we've gone through ties in with today. And of course, we got into Blavatsky and all that stuff the last time. So I'm really looking forward to that. I hope you are too. Stay tuned after the break. Brent Thomas, he's going to give you the #1 paranormal show, not just on this network, but anywhere. The Paranormal Portal. Do you dare go through it after you've got your freak on?